Okay, this should be cool. We should be all up and running now. And time for a great stream. Let me just see if we're running on all the different platforms. Okay, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. So today is kind of different. I'm streaming on Twitch for the first time. So I actually realized how to stream to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So that's what I'm doing today. That's why I'm like trying to, figure this stuff out. Ah, Mikey, you just picked up some new runway pieces. What pieces? You need to do a show and tell on your channel. We need to see what you're working on. Bonjour, Leo. How you doing? Leo, was it this live stream that you said you wanted to join? I can't remember. Was it this one? Because if you want to join, you have to DM me on Instagram and I'll send you the link. But yeah, I have, especially the McQueen show, I have a lot to say. Jeez. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Over the years, all KP conspiracy theories, this what it's like being British. Exactly what it's like. Good evening, people. I kind of love these live streams. It's kind of like a really fun vibe because it tends to, not all the same people, but it tends to be like the same community of people that just want to watch the lives. And I think everyone else just watches the live streams back. So it's really cool. Like I see the same names over and over again. It's like a cool little community we've got going on here in the live streams. Yeah, people don't actually tune into live streams. It's really weird, but loads of people watch it once the live stream is over and it's been posted. It's so strange. I don't understand it. So yeah, the live streams are like a really cool, tight-knit community. It's really cool. Yeah, exactly. Usually around like 100 people. But if you go into the YouTube and the live stream tab, you can see like the views on my live stream. So you see that like loads of people watch it once it's been posted. I just feel like it catches people off guard. I don't mind either way. I love doing the live streams. It's really fun. And I like the ability to be able to go back and forth with the audience. And sort of share opinions. Like I give my opinion, and then they, like you guys, the audience, give your opinion in real time. It's really fun. It's like something completely different to me just making a video and then just like putting it out there. Pattern making at work while watching. First time I finally joined on time. Hey, welcome to the stream. You're right on time. He's a hardworking bloke. I mean, it's going to be a long stream. We're talking about 3 brands. It might be like 2 to 3 hours long. So I would say grab some snacks, get your Uber Eats popping, get the frying pan hot. Just happens to be chilling, right place, right time. Yeah, I guess so. I think I deliberately don't over promote my live streams also because I don't want to like the whole thing with my channel is just like if you want to watch it, watch it. I'm not going to like force people, shove it down people's throats. Like, watch my live stream, tune into my live stream. Especially because I know like people watch it back after anyway. So yeah. M&Ms or popcorn. Oh, I'd say popcorn. I'm more of a popcorn guy. I'm not really like I don't eat a lot of chocolate. If I eat like really bad stuff, it's normally sweets, like Skittles. But I'm not like a big chocolate person. So yeah. I would say go for the popcorn. Once I upgrade to live streaming, best believe I'm shoving it down throats. Okay, so we're going to chat for 30 more seconds and then we're going to jump straight into the Alexander McQueen show, which I have a lot to talk about when it comes to the McQueen show. A tiny bit positive and the rest of it not so positive. But we'll see how this goes. Can you pause for 3 minutes while it's in the microwave? Oh my god. McQueen, I have things to say. Yeah, Leo, you didn't answer my question. Is this the one that you wanted to jump on, or is this not the one you wanted to jump on? Can't remember. I really can't remember. Paris Fashion Week has like fried my brain. Oh, I deserve. So Hernan only comes on when I ask him to come on, and I normally forget because I'm doing so many things. So he's not on the live stream now because I just didn't even tell him about it or ask him to be on it. So yeah, that's why. But on that note, I think yeah, let's talk about Alexander McQueen because I think that Alexander McQueen was most definitely the most anticipated show of the whole of Paris Fashion Week, and I can't actually remember the last time I've said that. So it's kind of good in many different ways. Now, for many of you that know, this was Seán McGirr's debut collection at Alexander McQueen. Of course, Alexander McQueen unfortunately took his life in 2010, and Sarah Burton took over from Alexander McQueen. She was someone that was part of Lee Alexander McQueen's design team when he was alive. So it was kind of just, it made so much sense for her to take over. And since she's taken over, she's kind of kept not the exact same level, but a high level of tailoring. She's explored a lot of McQueen's ideas. But I would say that Sarah Burton's vision of McQueen was more commercial and it's less angry. When I think of Alexander McQueen's work, I always think of themes of like rage and anger and disdain with a lot of historical events and, you know, wanting to show that fashion is not just about everything being fine and dandy, but also life is very toxic and people are toxic. And Alexander McQueen explored those themes. I think Sarah Burton was a big move away from that and being a bit more neutral. And so obviously, I think that Seán McGirr had massive shoes to fill, considering that he is the first creative director that has no direct connection to Alexander McQueen, compared to Sarah Burton, who literally worked under Alexander McQueen for many years and then took over the brand. So it was very interesting, and I was really interested to see what would happen. I remember when there was speculation around who would replace Sarah Burton when she had her final show. I remember thinking that the best person in my mind was just Gareth Pugh, because when I think of like expert tailoring and like silhouettes and innovation in that sense, Gareth Pugh is like the only name that comes to mind, especially if we're talking like a British perspective. But of course, Seán McGirr was announced, and here we are talking about his debut collection at Alexander McQueen. Now, before I go into it, one thing I will say is that I don't think Seán McGirr could have won, regardless of what Seán McGirr did. I mean, Seán McGirr is someone that has obviously worked in fashion for a while now. He's worked at brands like Uniqlo. Most recently, he worked at JW Anderson, where he was designing the menswear. And yeah, I just feel like if he referenced Alexander McQueen too much, people would say, oh, you're just rehashing Alexander McQueen's work. If he went a different angle and, you know, referenced himself, people would be like, oh, this is far removed from McQueen. And then if he used a lot of his influence working at JW Anderson, people would be like, oh my God, this looks like a JW Anderson collection, which was one of the criticisms that I did see about his collection online. So I think that he could never win. I don't think there'll ever be another Alexander McQueen. Alexander McQueen is literally one of the greatest designers of all time, at least in my opinion, and certainly one of the most skilled designers of all time. Because some of the greatest designers of all time that we think about, people like Christian Dior, for example, Christian Dior was not someone that was necessarily very skilled with his hands and handcrafting things, but he's someone that had really, really good ideas and had a way of, you know, getting a team to kind of bring his vision to life. Alexander McQueen is one of those like designers that literally could do it all. I mean, this is a designer that was Savile Row trained. This is a designer that was making patterns at Romeo Gigli. Like, this is craft top-notch, top level. And so no one will compare to that unless you're someone that has built your own legacy with your own brand, like a Rick Owens. I don't think any designer that is the creative director of the brand will ever live up to, you know, the name that is Lee Alexander McQueen. So I think he was already fighting a losing battle from the start. So I did want to start by saying that, because I genuinely think that no matter what he did, I don't think it would have met most people's expectations regardless. So let's see if we can get the show on the screen and kind of chat through what was going on in the show. So actually, one thing I actually thought of with this show, the set was kind of interesting. The set was this kind of like abandoned train station, which was kind of weird because I twisted my ankle. I was actually at this show and I twisted my ankle walking to my seat because I didn't see the train track. So like, you can see the train track on the edge. So I literally twisted my ankle on the way and I was like looking around to make sure that no one saw my blunder. And I was like, I hope the models don't like miswalk and twist their ankles, but there's enough space. So yeah, kind of general themes from this collection before we talk about the references, because what we do for guys that are new to the stream, we watch the shows twice. So the first time is just me talking about the show generally, and then the second time is me actually going into each look. And then we'll look at it on Vogue Runway and everything else, right? So in a general sense, there were a lot of things that Seán McGirr said in interviews that I don't necessarily think made sense. So in a lot of the preview interviews and a lot of the interviews that he did with Vogue, he was talking about him wanting to usher in this sort of joyful and more cheerful idea of what McQueen is, which I thought didn't make any sense considering that McQueen is not cheerful. That is not the energy that McQueen is. McQueen is about tailoring first and foremost, and secondly, it's about anger, and it's actually about rage, and it's actually about McQueen. A lot of his themes, he was talking about, you know, historical things that have happened. If we're talking about Highland R word, things like that, or even the different themes that he was looking at in his work. One of my favorite collections I always talk about is number 13, right? And not because of the stunt at the end. I think that number 13 was all about, you know, body positivity and, you know, talking about it, almost like a commentary of just the way women are seen in society. And that also, there was a similar idea of that in Voss, where in Voss, in the finale, you have this like woman who's traditionally overweight, and that in society is not seen as attractive, right? And then you also have moths that emerge from the smashing glass, and moths are seen as like ugly versions of butterflies. And it's almost like seeing the beauty and imperfections, and really who decides what things are beautiful. This is McQueen. These are the themes that McQueen tackles. So for Seán McGirr to say, oh, Alexander McQueen was this like really cheerful person, to me actually didn't make any sense, because Alexander McQueen was not cheerful. And it's fine that he wasn't cheerful. He's someone that, you know, had a lot of trauma through his life, whether he was bullied, you know, growing up in Southeast London. And fun fact, actually, Alexander McQueen grew up where I grew up, in Lewisham in London. So I have a very good understanding of the kind of homophobia he would have gone through growing up. And so that's kind of where the rage starts to come from. So to kind of try to re-edition McQueen's life and be like, oh, McQueen was the really cheerful guy, and we're trying to create a cheerful vision of McQueen, I think didn't make sense. And I think that disjointedness kind of reflected in the collection in terms of not truly understanding the essence of what Alexander McQueen stood for, or what Lee Alexander McQueen and his brand is, if that makes sense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly invite Son of a Guns, because I know Son of a Guns wants to join the live. And then I'm going to continue my tirade. But in the meantime, what did you guys think generally of the collection? Gian says, damn, I'm late. McGirr own old work was basic and photography as well. Bland as hell, so not surprised. Oh, that's harsh. The show is giving, I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope this works energy. That's a harsh way to say it, but I kind of understand the sentiment because from the interviews, once again, I started to get this sense that there wasn't a true understanding of what Alexander McQueen stood for. And that's why the collection, in my opinion, ended up looking disjointed. So, for example, in the preview, one of the big inspirations he cited was he looked at Alexander McQueen's Spring Summer 1995 collection, which obviously is the Birds collection, very famous. It's inspired. The name is inspired by the Alfred Hitchcock film. I can't even speak. From 1963. You guys will notice that film where there are kind of these people in this town in California, and these like really violent birds just attack everyone, basically. That was kind of like one of the inspiration points for that collection. And Seán McGirr, when Seán McGirr in interviews was talking about the Alexander McQueen shows that he enjoys, it almost seemed like someone who grew up loving McQueen, kind of like me too, and kind of wanting to push all those references all into one collection all at once. And so it ended up being sort of like a mismatch of, when I was younger, I really loved Voss, but then I also loved the Birds. And so I kind of wanted to incorporate the Birds, but then also Voss, and then also, like Jack the Ripper stalks his victims, and it just wasn't cohesive at all. It's just all these different ideas smashing each other in the face, essentially. One thing I will say though, being at the show, I really loved the soundtrack. I remember when Busta Rhymes started playing, I literally wanted to start dancing. So I'd say that. And I think overall, what kind of Seán McGirr was looking for this collection, because in interviews, Seán McGirr was talking about how he was really looking at McQueen's earlier work, and he got the sense that in Alexander McQueen's earlier work, it was more Alexander McQueen being inspired by the rawness of London and, growing up in the Southeast. And that was also a theme that Seán McGirr was looking at. And something that I thought was really interesting and I really agreed with, in Kathy Horan's review, she said that it looked like a mismatch of London's cool kids, which I kind of got the sense of that. It almost reminds me of, for guys that don't know, because once again, I grew up in Lewisham. That's where Alexander McQueen was literally born. I was born there too, and he grew up there. So close to Lewisham is a place called Bromley. I actually used to go shopping in Bromley all the time, in Bromley High Street. I don't know if it still exists anymore because retail is just like dying. I don't know how many of the shops are still there. But when I was younger, I used to go to like Topshop and like Sports Direct and stuff. And you could walk there from Lewisham. It's like a 1 hour, maybe 10-minute walk from Lewisham. And one of the biggest groups to come out of Bromley, of course, is the Bromley Contingent. These were a group of artists who were heavily inspired by the Sex Pistols, and they loved the Sex Pistols. And so they made their group that became a massive punk group in their own right. Susie Sue, obviously one of the members, is someone that is like really famous and almost made her own solo career, even when the Bromley Contingent sort of like died off. And so when I see this sort of inspired by the Southeast End London cool kids, it just literally reminds me of the Bromley Contingent. And actually, some of the looks on the runway in this collection, I've literally seen Susie Sue dressed that way. So that was literally one of the first things that came to my mind. See if Son of the Gun is in the background. What he said, I don't think these designers actually follow the theme. They just throw it all together, I guess you're saying. Yeah, cool kids and McQueen don't match. It was not his aim. Exactly what I was saying earlier about, it seemed like there was a lack of understanding of really what Alexander McQueen stood for, because kind of associating McQueen's work with Cool Kids of London and this sort of like DIY sort of aesthetic is almost akin to the punk movement, which McQueen is not punk. I understand why people can sort of associate his work with punk, but it's not really punk, is it? It just isn't. So, and once again, like at the core of what McQueen did, it was tailoring. It wasn't DIY. Like nothing McQueen did was very, art school sort of DIY looking. This is someone that was Savile Row trained. This is not some like amateur just making clothes. Oh, I love Vivian Westwood because the YouTube video includes the real music. Yeah, but they can't include the real music, of course, because of YouTube copyright. Otherwise, they won't even be able to, upload it because it just won't even be pushed by YouTube. So I understand why they have to change the music, which is something that I did appreciate being at the show, actually. He says, the McQueen woman is the tragic heroine, a scorned woman, the ghost of a prostitute wailing down the streets of the Victorian East End. This is just the bastardization of everything he did. Yeah, the McQueen woman is angry. The McQueen woman has rage. The McQueen woman is powerful. The McQueen woman is also refined and appreciates tailoring. And I think something that was missing in this collection, because there were a lot of McQueen references, like loads. Even like the last looks, we'll get into it when we rewatch the collection. The molded pieces, those were inspired by the molded pieces that McQueen did in Spring Summer 2005. And I remember Sarah Moa did it again in 2011, I think, where she had sort of something similar, but hers had floral prints on it, whereas McQueen's one was had like the horses and even the horsetail, which ties into this collection too, because those shoes, the sort of hoof horse heels that I actually did like in this collection were inspired by that Spring Summer 2005 look, and also Seán McGirr's heritage and just horsemen and Ireland. So that was kind of interesting to tie all of that together. But I still think that, yeah, a lot of the references didn't have the essence of McQueen, even down to like one of the references I remember was this silhouette, the circular shape around the neck that Seán McGirr had in this collection in knitwear. McQueen did that in, I think, Spring Summer 1997. But the thing about Alexander McQueen, because he was so good at tailoring and everything he did was about, transforming shape around a woman's body, it would not fit that badly, or it would not be so wide fitting or just loose fitting. A lot of what McQueen did was about crafting around a woman's body. And I think, especially in the knitwear section of this collection, we were lacking that craft around the body that McQueen is so known for. So that was something that I think was 100% missing in this collection. Hello.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. Great to see you back.
Yeah. You're talking about the big ones today, so I had to join.
Before I continue going deep into it, because it's about to. These were the last looks anyway. What did you think generally of Seán McGirr's debut at McQueen?
Fortunately, I am a McQueen purist. So, unfortunately for him, I didn't like the show. It was a bit all over the place as far as like references and what he wants to pinpoint, where he wants to go for the brand. And that's hard to tell from a first collection, but it was. I wasn't sure just from the general direction.
Right. Yeah, I think there's also this because people are having this conversation online of like, who do we have patience for and who do we not? Because obviously a conversation we have now is like designers not lasting at houses. Like we saw Luigi at Bali last for a few seasons. We saw like Ludovic at Andy for like literally one season. Now we've seen like Water at Blue Marine after one season, like go. So it's kind of like, is it just that fashion doesn't have patience anymore? We don't allow designers to develop. So what's the situation with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's kind of like goes hand in hand with social media and the way that everything runs more quickly, and then the way the news cycle just is more quickly these days. And I guess it's the same thing with patience. And new hires at at new houses.
Right,
People want to move on if it doesn't look like it's going to work.
right. Yeah, I think also one of my big issues with this collection, okay, it's still playing, is that what McQueen did, like McQueen was so much about craft. Like McQueen would go so out of his way to create things. Um, like something I always bring up is like Amy Mullins when he made those like prosthetic legs in number 13, those like
Mhm.
wooden prosthetic legs, how he went out of his way to work with someone that makes prosthetic legs and also wood's like craftsman just to make those pieces, and they look so good that people didn't even know they were prosthetic legs. People literally thought they were like shoes. That is the level of craft and like attention to detail McQueen did. So in this on the set, there are like these circular like foam things that we were all sitting on, and that's supposed to be inspired by like haystacks,
Mhm.
which makes sense because obviously Seán McGirr in the show notes was talking about how this was all about like this animalistic, like channeling this animalistic energy. But I thought, why is it foam? There's nothing about the set that really channels the animalistic energy, really.
Right.
So
Yeah.
why not just have like real hay and then try to find a way to make it, something that people can sit. And that's what I mean. That's where we start to lack like the attention to detail because if Alexander McQueen was alive today, it would be like that.
Right.
If
I
that
think
was the idea.
that was the main. I'm sorry. That was the main thing for me that was missing in the show was McQueen came with a rawness to his work. It may not, especially in the beginning, it may not have been perfect, but it was extremely raw in his emotion and what he was trying to convey. And I think that when you were talking about craftsmanship in this new collection, the only places I saw it was those three last looks and maybe the shoes.
Yeah.
But
I did like the first look, to be honest.
I
I did
did.
actually like that first
It
look. That
was
first
very
look here.
promising. It was
Yeah.
promising, and after that, it was just yeah.
It's like after that, it was like, oh no.
Even
So
at the
bro not getting invited next year after this live. I'm just commenting on what I'm seeing. If that means they take my seat away, I don't mind. My job is not to you know, say nice things just so I can get a seat next season. That's not why I'm here.
I was actually surprised what you when you mentioned the music was different for the show because I've been to be the best thing about the show was the soundtrack. I've been replaying the soundtrack all week.
Yeah,
The
the soundtrack was amazing. It was
mhm.
so good.
Did they play the Enya songs and or was it just for the YouTube version?
Oh no. They played those and then they played it was actually really random because then they also had like Busta Rhymes and it was like almost like all the genres of music all in one. I was
Mhm.
like trying to figure out if there's any like symbolism behind it.
Right. It almost it Busta Rhymes stuff. It was almost a bit contrived, like trying to go to
Yeah.
that dark, because I love that song, but nah, mm-mm.
But see, this is what confused me about this collection too, because if you look at the way the models are walking, they're kind of almost, some of them are like looking down and like channeling this sort of angry energy. But then in interviews, Seán McGirr said he wanted to make it more cheerful. So
Hmm.
it's like almost, what are you? That's why I say it's so disjointed. It's like you're saying that the collection is, and let me actually whip up the show notes to say exactly what it says. So it says a rough opulence, revealing the animal within, a compressed and elongated silhouette, objects embedded and enveloped, or enveloped in this case, knitted statuary. So if you're talking about rough opulence, so that's already rough. You're talking about revealing the animal within. The set does not really give me that energy. It looks like a brutalist abandoned set. You should have taken us to a farmland or a farmyard with
Hmm.
hay all over the set. Like I don't. It's so disjointed. It feels like a million ideas into one. Like
Hmm.
kind of what person like no story, no point of view, basically. And I did like a lot of individual pieces, like you said, the footwear, the horse footwear, like those heels. I really like those. Um, there are some interesting pieces in this collection that were inspired by, I think one, I think vest was inspired by broken iPhone screens. So it just looked like broken glass, which was neither here
Oh
nor
yeah,
there in terms of ideas, but how
I
it actually looked. I really liked that, and the craft that went into it, I thought was really nice. And then
I was mad at
also,
the top. The dress I liked, but I was mad at the
yeah,
top because when you saw it in person, but coming at me on the from YouTube, I
yeah,
liked it, and
yeah,
then as soon as you saw the back, it looked cheap.
yeah. I can see that, and I think once again, going back to the craft, is that sort of attention to detail, like
Mhm.
doing it all the way through. That was kind of missing, which once again, not trying to compare him to McQueen because no one's ever going to be McQueen, but that's kind of what was lacking. But I did also enjoy because one of them was Seán McGirr's dad, I think, was a mechanic. And so one of them is actually like broken headlights of a car and appliqued onto like the dress. So that's why like
Mm,
some of it is like looks like normal glass, like kind of like a car mirror, and then some of it is orange, and then some of it is red. That was really interesting. And
mm,
I think people also said this online, and I think if he actually lent into his own personal references and kind of just did that in a McQueen energy, I think this collection would have been amazing because the ideas that where that kind of came through. So with like the horse heels, where it was yes, it was a reference to Spring Summer 2005, but it's also a reference to Irish like horse riders and like horse herders, right? That's very interesting. Um, or having kind of like, oh, my dad's a mechanic, and so this is like inspired by like smashed car glass and like headlights. That's really cool. And I think every time he lent into that, the looks looked really interesting, and it started to create a story. But then everything outside of that is where it started to become a bit disjointed, in my opinion.
mhm. I actually thought that dress was really ugly. The one that you're talking, the silver with the orange and the red.
I think because I saw like I like saw it, and then I saw it again,
Hmm.
um and like the craft that went into it made it actually really nice.
That's fair.
I think maybe it's just one of those things you have to see up close, but like
Hmm.
yeah, I think when he lent into that stuff it was like really interesting. The knitwear, oh my. That is like yeah, that
It's
is
not
where
even
like
practical.
yeah, when people said that it looks like J.W. Anderson, I think that was what they were talking about, especially
Mhm.
these knitwear looks. Which, once again, it's a McQueen reference. Like McQueen did that in Spring Summer 1997. And for you guys watching, you can go on Vogue Runway and look at the looks I'm talking about. But McQueen's one was tighter to the body, and it actually looked like something you would want to wear, and something that looked very chic for a woman to wear. Um, Whereas there, it genuinely just looks like I don't even know what the right adjective to use is without being too harsh. egg,
Stuffy.
egg cup.
I could think of a few. Stuffy, unpractical, just
Yeah.
bulbous. It wasn't attractive.
It feels like they're referencing too much from current trends. Were they referencing current trends? I don't think so.
Some of
I
the
also, product wise, I was gonna say I also like the like footwear. Going back to the footwear, there were these pointy Oxfords
yeah.
that were on a lot of the looks. That was kind of like a really cool way to kind of like transform the Oxfords. It's kind of, I like it when people take classic shoes and kind of transform it a bit, kind of like what Martine Rose does with like the really
Mhm.
super square toe loafers. So that was really cool. See, this is another knitwear piece. I'm just like, once again, it's just that is the most un-McQueen piece of knitwear I've ever seen on a runway.
It doesn't even look flattering on the models.
No, literally, it doesn't.
Mm-mm.
But then once again, footwear amazing.
I thought even the show production just didn't feel like a McQueen show. Just
But that's because, once again, I said it was lacking the attention to detail and story. Because once again, if we're going off the show notes and it being about channeling this sort of like animal energy and a rough if you say something is rough, like a rough opulence, things have to be scary things. That if you're like revealing the animal within, it has to. Where's
Mm-hmm.
the rage? Where's the no? And I mean, and it's almost like I don't know if it's like designers also, because I talk about this with Demna and like when he gives interviews, and sometimes designers say things that make their work come across like really disjointed in terms of saying that you want to like show a version of McQueen that's, you know, less angry and more cheerful, but then in the show notes you're saying that you're inspired by a rough opulence. Those are literally contradictions. You've quite literally contradicted yourself.
How did you feel about the casting? The type of models that they chose for this new McQueen?
It was okay. It was cool to see like some of the old McQueen models, like especially Deborah Shaw, in the show, especially, but people rightfully so said that for someone as iconic as Deborah Shaw, especially in terms of the history of McQueen, to give her the look that they gave her was a bit off key. Someone like Deborah Shaw, if you're going to put her on the runway, she's supposed to get the top look, probably like look one.
Mm-hmm. And I thought honestly the show was a bit too boring to have her anyway. Like if you're gonna have Deborah Shaw, you need to have her doing something besides.
I know, right? Because think of like what we associate like her in like chains and like doing. That's what we associate like Deborah Shaw with. So yeah, in comparison, it's just it's a bit crazy.
Yeah, missed opportunity.
Okay, those are the pieces with like the glass. Well, that's the iPhone screen piece coming through now. I wouldn't be surprised if top talent left for Sarah Burton. So I heard that a lot of the team stayed, actually. I heard that most of the team stayed.
This look bothered me because the way the model is holding her chest, I didn't understand what the purpose of that was. The dress is nothing that you haven't seen before, so I didn't understand the purpose of her doing that.
Yeah, a lot of the models were also doing like even back to the gesture in look one, which also was a McQueen reference, but it's also like I think when you reference things, I just think it has to make sense. So what about that gesture makes sense in terms of the story of the collection?
Right.
We don't know because the collection doesn't really have a cohesive story. It's in a way just product, like different looks that are trying to tell different stories and different ideas and referencing different things. So yeah, it's just like there's no real point of it. It doesn't really add anything in terms of like a theme to the collection.
That looks like Rick Owens. That look looks like Rick Owens right there.
That's true. That's true. Leo says, Karen, please hire me. I actually do a brilliant job and make you money. I think, funny enough, I think this collection will make money because I think the footwear is so good. I think that depending on how they do the rollout of the footwear, I think that there's a lot of scope for a lot of it to sell. The clothes, not so much.
The last look bothered me too, watching the show with that when the bag was swinging, because like you said, like the gestures didn't have a purpose. Like why was she swinging the bag like that?
I think he's trying to channel once again because in his interview he said that he wants to channel this sort of Southeast London energy, kind of like the East End, which is where McQueen's from. And because I grew up there, I'm just like, what is so East End about swinging your bag or like walking like that? I don't get it. And I'm someone that was born there and grew up there, and I don't get it. So like, I don't even know what the idea with that one was. I'm lost.
It was very empty. I don't know. Maybe they need to cast models that can sell it better. What the vision, because it was. I think the problem too, a lot of the models that he casted were new, like extremely new. So it's hard enough to pull off clothes that are good when you're new, so.
No, I totally agree. And I don't know, I just think, especially at a McQueen debut, like, because of who McQueen was and kind of what McQueen stood for, this collection is supposed to scare me. It's supposed to shock me. It's supposed to be like, you know, the early McQueen collections where people are just in absolute shock before like they understand what he was trying to say like 5 years later. Like I really expected something. It doesn't have to be in like in exactly the same way that McQueen did it. He could do it in a way where he's still referencing his own heritage and you know, doing it that way. But yeah, it was just so confusing.
Do you have any favorite looks?
As long as the bags and shoes sell, Kering don't care about legacy.
Wow.
Well, I guess so. I mean, geez, everyone was talking about, you know, showing that Alexander McQueen video where he was saying that when he dies, he wants the brand to burn, which obviously makes sense in theory. But the issue with that is Alexander McQueen, let's remember, ran away from Bernard Arnault and literally ran to Francois Pinault, like on his knees to invest in the brand so that he could like not be under Bernard Arnault's like control. And so Francois Pinault has invested loads of money into the brand. He's not just going to be like, okay, Alexander McQueen, like Lee isn't here anymore, so let's just get rid of the brand and goodbye to my millions. Like that's not really how business works, unfortunately. So even in theory, I would love for designers to just die with their brand so people don't like bastardize it and what it means and their legacy. However, in a business context, it's just not really realistic.
Right. Did you have any favorite looks? Because I know most of the collection was.
Like I said, I liked the looks where he was referencing himself. So I did like the whole like, oh, my dad was a mechanic, so I was inspired by, you know, the headlights and all that sort of stuff. I like this look one.
Yeah.
I really liked that. Trying to think of the other looks I really liked. I don't know. The tailoring was not sharp at all, which is very off key because once again, this is Alexander McQueen, Mr. Savile Row. You could not design a brand that was made by someone who is known for like having sharp tailoring because it's informed by interning and having an apprenticeship at Savile Row and then have sloppy tailoring. It's just, yeah. It's just the most un-McQueen thing ever. So the tailoring definitely wasn't there for me. That's one. The footwear I thought was actually amazing.
I love the boots heels in the first look.
Yeah, the boots too, the hoof heels, the pointy Oxfords, all of that was like, I love that. I kind of like some of the denim, which some people didn't like the denim because they said it was akin to like blue marine. It was kind of like almost pushing to Y2K. But I liked the idea in terms of a theme because I was trying to kind of build a theme in my head because obviously when I actually went to the show, it was really, really late because it was like a really super rainy day. I almost thought I was going to miss it because I like planned that I was going to go to the show. I was like, okay, I'm going to book my Uber. I'm like an hour away. And then I tried to book my Uber and it didn't work. So I had to like, and it was like on the outskirts of Paris. I had to walk to a train station. And then when I was in the train, like in the metro, it just stopped randomly. And they were like, oh, we're having some like difficulties. And I was like, there's no way I'm about to miss the show. And it was like rainy. It was just a shitty day. So like everyone came late. So even though I was like 30 minutes late, I was kind of like 20 minutes early. So I was just sat down reading through the show notes. And in the show notes, which I'm going to go through when we go through the Vogue runway looks, they had a description of like the fabrics and all that of every look and kind of an idea of every look. And so I was trying to build a story in my head. And so in terms of the theme of this like animalistic sort of rough opulence type of idea, I liked this, you know, fur, you know, creeping out of, you know, blazers and tailoring, like kind of like this look, for example. I kind of like that as a theme, or this idea of, you know, fur being spliced out of denim. That was really cool. But unfortunately, that was not continued. That theme was not continued throughout the collection. So then it ended up being disjointed.
I actually think the look that you were talking about, with the fur trimmed denim, that was probably one of the strongest looks. If he's trying to, for like a new McQueen, it's an obvious referencing with the grommets and the leather, and it was. I thought that look was perfect.
Right. And so that's what I mean. Like I like those looks, but once again, anyway, that's for because once again, I don't think Seán could have won either way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the tailoring was exceptionally like mid, especially for designing at literally Alexander McQueen. So yeah. Oh, Leo, I need to watch the Show Studio review. I thought that Show Studio wouldn't critique the collection because Show Studio has such a big relationship with Alexander McQueen. I mean, they've interviewed Alexander McQueen on Show Studio so many times.
Mm-hmm.
He's like literally designed things live on Show Studio. Like they have a long-standing relationship with the brand. So I just thought because of that relationship, they wouldn't say anything critical, which is why I didn't even bother to watch the review. And not because I like Hetty. I'm like really good friends with Hetty. I just thought she would be obligated not to say anything critical.
Well, I guess
So
the
that's
obligation
cool.
is to Lee, not the brand.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And kind of like these kind of cheetah prints too was a way for Seán to kind of bring this animalistic idea, but I just think it wasn't enough. And then, oh my God, these looks, I have no idea what this was.
The
These
hoodie,
sort of like, yeah, hoodie, curtain,
that was the
dresses.
worst one.
I have no idea. And yeah, this with the cheetah, I have no idea. And that is where people are saying like it looks like sort of like an art project sort of thing.
It looks like they
This
were
was
trying
the
to throw something obviously commercial in the mix.
yeah.
This look was
Yeah,
fabulous.
this was a denim I really loved. This is
Mhm.
what I was like in the theme of the collection made a lot of sense. I really thought that was good.
I wonder who they're gonna get for branding purposes like celebrity and red carpet stuff.
Right,
I
right.
wonder how that's gonna go for them. Because honestly, I
And
didn't see a lot
it's
of pieces that even make sense on the red carpet.
yeah. I even think even those last looks, that sort of like molded piece that's inspired by like Spring Summer 2005 and like shades of 2011 Spring Summer, kind of also is kind of interesting because once again going back to the fact that his dad was a mechanic, and I think they said it was actually made of steel, kind of like mimicking the chassis of an actual car. And then also the paint was used to make it was, I think, actual car spray paint, which is also a reference to going back to number 13, the look everyone knows where the model was spinning around and then the like the spray paint was basically painted on her. That was kind of cool, but visually it doesn't look interesting in the way that McQueen and Sarah Burton did it. So if you put all those examples side by side, so Spring Summer 2005 versus Spring Summer 2011, and then this one looks the least visually intriguing. But in terms of an idea and, tying it back into his dad being a mechanic is actually quite interesting. Or Leah says, I don't think a job like this requires someone with an extraordinary design vision or talent, just someone who can competently reissue McQueen's patterns and styles with high octane shows, not hard. Which I guess in a way is what Sarah Burton did. Although Sarah Burton obviously toned down the rage and the
Theatrics, yeah,
anger and stuff.
which
And I
she did.
think it's kind of fitting of the day we're in that she did that, because I don't think McQueen could exist in 2024. I think he would be cancelled before people would have a chance to even understand what he's trying to say. Because I remember like when he did the Bumpsters, everyone was talking about how he's like objectifying women, which obviously is not what he was trying to do, or is not like even the idea of what the Bumpsters were. But obviously it took people time to actually understand what they were. But I think in today's climate, I don't know if he would have been given the same grace because of just how hypersensitive I think everyone is in today's climate.
Do you think that he owes obligation to pay homage to Sarah Burton in his design process?
I don't necessarily think so. I think he can do what he wants. I don't even think he had to reference McQueen at all, to be honest. I think that
Okay.
I think that just if you channel the energy of McQueen, you don't have to do the exact same thing, and you don't have to be like, here's my version of what McQueen did 15 years ago. I don't think you even need to do that. You can kind of make the brand your own, but not be so referential, which is kind of going back to like the looks where he was kind of referencing himself and his heritage and his family and his history. That was very interesting. And there's a way of still channeling it, and it's down to like attention to detail, like I said, with the set, kind of where's the hay, where's the animalistic vibe, where is all of that, in even down to the set, which would kind of add to kind of bringing that energy, what the models should be performing, especially for a McQueen debut, where they should be harassing the audience, like they should be scaring people in the audience. Even like down to like that piece there, like the skull sort of LED bag, it almost came across like, you know, now a lot of brands have this like filler look that's made for TikTok or like made for social media to, you know, everyone's going to have that in the shorts and it's going to make the rounds. It almost seemed like what's the theme of that? In what is, because in the show notes, let's go back to the show notes once again. Rough opulence, revealing the animal within. Where is that idea in an LED skull?
It's funny, if they did it for that purpose, they failed, because I don't think anybody reposted that look.
Yeah, I don't even think anyone talked about it, to be honest.
Talked about that look at all.
You said, where's the animal, a goat?
I thought the cut of this was pretty spot on for McQueen, you know, given the 90s McQueen.
Yeah. J.W. Anderson, Loewe, ex Marnie. Jeez.
Ex Rick Owens.
Yeah, the back, I see what you mean. The more I see, obviously I did see it in person, but the more I see the back, the more annoying it actually becomes. Because it just seems like there's no consideration to the back, probably because most people only see the front, which is actually like a cop-out.
But then they did it with this look.
Yeah.
I thought this dress was pretty fabulous too. It's pretty.
No, I love this dress.
The silhouette is basic, but the, you know.
Yeah, I love this dress too. I know you didn't like it, but I'm a fan of it, especially like the idea of it. I really like that.
I don't think I liked any of the pieces that had the mesh under it, that nude mesh.
Right. And I think my best way of kind of like concluding the whole collection is like everything that McQueen did was like really deep and like over considered. And I think nothing about this collection is actually deep, is my best way of saying it. I think I even have a quote from Kathy Horan, I think, where she said something that I was like, oh, that's like quite accurate. See if I can find that quote. And it's funny because I have a love-hate relationship with Kathy Horan, because when we get into the Balenciaga section, I'm just going to be critiquing her 24/7 because I feel like she's almost become Demna Gvasalia's personal cheerleader. And she's critical about every single brand, but Balenciaga and but about Demna. It's kind of strange. I don't know when that started, but over the past few seasons now, it's kind of seemed to be the case.
After she walked that runway show, it was all over. It was over.
Sorry, it was Vanessa Friedman. Aha, I found the quote. Okay, so Vanessa Friedman said, in the preview, Mr. McGirr said the first McQueen show he remembered was Voss, the spring 2001 collection that featured models trapped in a see-through sanitarium. wearing clothes made from feathers and oyster shells, quietly going to pieces as the audience looked on. I think when I saw Voss, I was like, oh, he's really trying to say something, Mr. McGirr said. Because obviously, McQueen, there's always a message in the clothes. There has to be. He was right. Yet, if such a message exists in this collection, it was impossible to identify. Maybe next time. Which is basically what Vanessa Friedman said, which is like super, super accurate. That is so accurate. Because it's like, it's kind of weird that Seán McGirr is like saying himself that with McQueen, there's always a message in the clothes, but at the same time, what he put on the runway didn't have a cohesive message. It's like, that's actually insane.
There's no way that would have came out of my mouth if I would have saw the collection I was about to put out. I wouldn't have said that. Like, right. No way.
He almost set himself up. In a way, kind of like what Demna does, which is why I always like say, like, he sets up in interviews and then does the opposite, is literally what like Seán McGirr did in that interview. Yeah, that's crazy. He literally set himself up. Even like some of the references, like I think he said that the heels that I really like, the sort of like horse hoof heels with the horse tail at the back, was a reference to McQueen's like armadillo shoes, which obviously like everyone knows from Plato's Atlantis. And I was like, those don't look alike at all.
At all.
The only reference I see is Spring Summer 2005, clearly, because it looks exactly the same as that like molded look. Because even I think it was Kate Moss actually that had the look where her ponytail was made to look like a horse's tail. That is exactly what the shoe looks like. It literally has nothing to do with like Plato's Atlantis. Like, it literally does not look like that. I don't know if that was just a case of like almost trying to add, you know, sometimes designers go to houses and then they do this thing where it's like, I'm going to show you that I know the references. So I'm going to basically mention as many of the shows as possible, but then you end up mentioning shows and I'm like, it doesn't actually look like that.
It ends up working against them.
Yeah. Let me see if I can.
Models walk those last looks bothered me too, because I know in those constructed dresses they have to walk a certain way, and I didn't. It wasn't even a try, especially the last model. That walk was crazy. That walk was crazy, and I think what he was trying to do, you know, that McQueen clothes historically, like women have said that those clothes make you, you know, your posture differently. Like you
they make you feel powerful. You stand upright. Yeah.
Right. So in those clothes, I don't think any of those clothes did that.
Yeah.
Because even Sarah's clothes had that form to them.
Oh no, 100%. And I think Sarah was definitely, I think people are critical about Sarah. I think most of the critique about Sarah was more because she kind of she took a lot of the emotion out of McQueen. But in my opinion, she still kept the craft and she still kept the tailoring. And that makes a lot of sense because she was like there when McQueen was there. She was like in the mix. So it makes sense that she would understand how to do that. But I think a lot of people almost felt like she almost zapped a lot of the soul out of Alexander McQueen's brand, which I kind of agree with in a way. Like a lot of the emotion was kind of lost, but I still think that the clothes were just as good. Just maybe the themes around it wasn't as good with Sarah Burton. But I think with here, you're lacking both.
Yeah. I think just with the way that fashion was going in the 2010s when Sarah was there, it was going towards that heavily commercialized look. And so, if you remember those first few Burton collections, they were amazing. The honeycombs and the visors, they were really spectacular. A little bit void of the emotion still, but the clothes were at least extremely thoughtful and considered. But I would do anything to have her back now, though. Anything to have her back.
That's what everyone's saying. I'm like, what? we all critiquing Sarah Burson's work. I think my critique, even if she was still there, would always be the same. Kind of like, she's an amazing designer that is skilled enough to keep the craft and level of tailoring that Lee did himself. But then in terms of themes, storytelling, she's just not there compared to McQueen. And that's not going to change. So my idea on that is not going to change. But yeah, going through to like what they're saying in the show notes. So look one, they're saying is a distorted draped dress in laminated jersey. Look two is kind of like interesting because they have this like pin detailing around the neck. It kind of reminds me of like some of the old McQueen collections where a lot of models were restricted. The only issue is that it's just like, it's not a chain joined to anything. It's just kind of just a bar on its own. I don't know if that's a reference to that, like the T-bar chain. And then also black trousers in viscose. I don't know what it is about fashion and using viscose these days, but that's neither here nor there. You have, this is one of the looks I actually did like. Once again, kind of like this animalistic idea of sort of fur seeping and, you know, emerging through the tailoring in a way. I actually did really love this. So this is obviously a black wool piece, and the sort of fur looking effect thing is mohair, which is cool. And then they're like, the ribbing is cotton. Very, very interesting. This, I didn't really understand it. But it's just like all of it is shearling. I did like the footwear though. These were one of the iterations of the horse hoof sort of shoes, but this was without the kind of back, the tail at the back. So this just has like a zipper. So it's like a more commercial version, a less shocking version of the footwear. I need to know who designs footwear for McQueen, because this collection had some sensational footwear. So yeah, this is once again, I'm not so sure about the waist cinched in with the belts and all that. I don't know. It almost makes the tailoring look worse when actually this piece does look like it, like from the shoulders, looks really amazing. I like the way the sleeves look. I like kind of how it curves down. But then past the belt, I think it actually just makes it look worse. But yeah, these are kind of these sort of raincoats, which is kind of fitting considering it was raining outside. And also something that I also wondered with this show, because with the show, we got these like, do a little show and tell. We got these like blankets with just like, let me see if you can see like McQueen sewn into it. And I wonder if they checked the forecast beforehand and then made the blankets, or if it was a last minute like, okay, interns, all of you are going to have to like sew in McQueen emblems into like blankets last minute. That would be chaotic. And that's kind of what happens sometimes. Yeah. That would be really, really chaotic. But yeah, it's almost, someone said, and something I agree with, is kind of the way the models posed and the way they were walking, kind of this like face down, kind of was akin to John Galliano's latest haute couture collection. But then because they're doing the same gesture but with less emotion, it just comes across as like not as interesting in a way. So yeah, look 7 is, they're calling it a quadruple collar in hand knitted wool and a black silk nylon skirt. Actually, the fabric of that skirt does look quite interesting, I must say.
Yeah, that reminds me of
market kind of like, yeah, it reminds you of, you know, the material that they used to make those like market bags, which is kind of interesting because once again, going back to him saying it's inspired by the East End, this actually is an idea coming from the East End, kind of having this like market bag sort of, you know, fabric as a skirt is actually very interesting. And then you have, these are the less commercial versions of the horse boots. So now you have like the horsetail coming out. But I love these shoes. I honestly really love these shoes. I wonder how much they're going to cost.
I thought it was peeled leather, the skirt, at first. I didn't know it was nylon.
Yeah. So that's like interesting, like fabric use wise. Once again, I kind of like this look, but it's kind of like a similar idea. In the show notes, it says that it's once again wool mohair. So basically cotton jersey, same fabrics as like all the other looks that look similar. So moving on, look 9 is a double-breasted tailored coat made out of wool. And I think it says they have a T-bar chain. Something interesting, actually. So here you have these like safety pins. These are actually the invites to the show. So once again, this is very punk to have safety pins, but we had this conversation earlier. I don't think McQueen was punk. I don't think his philosophy had anything to do with punk. So I'm not too sure about this idea of having these like punk motifs and having one of the very big singular ideas of your debut collection being around the safety pin to the point where it was literally the invite. I don't really know about that, but I did like kind of like the silhouette of this piece. In terms of tailoring, this is one of the pieces that I did enjoy the tailoring. And then similar, just different colors with this look. And then you have, okay, the safety pin is more prominent because it's in white. So the silver against the white comes across a bit more prominently. Okay, look 11. This is interesting. T-bar chain again. And then we have trousers in black wool mohair. The shirt is a silk nylon. And then, of course, we have these fedora hats. I wonder what it is about these chains. Once again, we have this shirt in that same sort of nylon, sort of silk fabric that goes back into this idea of like referencing the East End and kind of like these like market bag fabrics. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know what other people think about that, but I think that's interesting in terms of the reference and the theme of the collection. I think that is actually quite interesting. And then you have these like details here. Something I didn't, I'm kind of pissed off that I didn't get to do was have a re-see. So almost all the shows, like people get invited to re-see the shows. And I always say that I prefer to go to re-sees than the actual runway show. Because yes, it was cool to be at the show and like experience kind of the show firsthand and then also talk to people after the show. That being said, as someone that is always going to do a live stream about it and really talk about the clothing, it's always better to see the stuff up close because when you're at the show, you can't really take in the clothes. The models walk past and then you're trying to try to understand the collection all at once and you're trying to take it all in and it all happens really quickly. So going to a re-see the next day and actually being able to see every look and you can feel the fabric and look at it for as long as you want, I think is really beneficial. So yeah, I think I'm also really, now that we're going into it look by look, really trying to see where this animalistic sort of, idea comes from, kind of what he was saying. I don't really get it until you get to the animal prints and obviously the horsehair shoes. But for that to be such a big theme of the collection, especially in the show notes, I don't know.
It didn't come across.
Yeah, I don't think it did. This, I'd like the shape of this piece, by the way. This is a piece I didn't talk about, but I did actually like this look because I like the footwear, I like the top. In the show notes, it says that it's a jacket with a bird tail back and a leather collar in black cotton canvas and a T-bar pencil skirt in black leather. So basically just leather and cotton canvas. Kind of cool.
She was another one of the models that was able to model for Lee when he was there.
Yeah. Bag wise, because I didn't really look into the bags, but kind of you have these T-bar necklaces and then the clutches are kind of following the same T-bar aesthetic. I think those will do well, actually. I think accessories wise and footwear wise, it's strong. And why that's very important, of course, because in the context of caring, that's really actually what matters. Because how many people are going to buy the runway shows?
Right.
This look, I think we're just going to skip that because, yeah. Okay, this look is kind of like similar, same fabric. So you have the cotton canvas top. I actually want to know what fabric that cheetah thing is like printed on. So let's see, look 16 in the show notes. It says it's okay. black faux fur leopard jacquard. So it's faux fur. When I was there at the show, I didn't get the sense, because you know when something's faux fur, you can like the actual fur strands come out to you a bit. You couldn't really tell, and because obviously the piece didn't have a lot of movement because it's kind of like a stiff fabric, so I couldn't really tell. And then even
I'm not
these
gonna lie,
bags
I
too.
clocked that it was faux fur from YouTube.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that,
maybe the angle that you see it at from YouTube
yeah,
versus like where I was
that's
sat
true.
makes it a lot easier to see. This, oh yeah, we're just gonna skip these ones up. Yeah. This was definitely the worst look in the collection. I do not know what was going on here. Just out of curiosity, hoodie in patch red, Bordeaux, black beige, and brown mohair, leopard jacquard knit, and jeans in black stretch leather. Yeah, no. So moving swiftly on, these looks, yeah, I don't know. It's supposed to be like a single sleeve dress, and it's in like viscose, and I like the idea of having a single sleeve dress, but execution, no. Like
Unfortunately, I
even
feel like
here,
these are gonna be the red carpet looks that they pick for promoting their
no
brand.
way, no
What else
way,
do they have?
no way, no way. This could
Mhm.
have actually been really interesting, I think, if the execution was different, because this whole like single sleeve dress, or kind of like, it reminds me of a piece of clothing like a POC that Issey Miyake did, right? Where you just have one piece of fabric and you make a whole piece out of it. Could have been executed a lot better. I like the idea, execution not so much. This I really loved.
Yeah, this is
This is
good.
one of my favorite looks, especially in terms of like the theme of this like animalistic understanding. And I was talking about these like pointy Oxfords. I did like that. I like them across the collection. But in terms of like what they use, it literally is just like denim with shearling. So yeah. But I really like these pieces. I thought this was really interesting.
I wish he would have expanded more on that idea of that look because that
Yeah,
had
yeah.
potential.
Yeah, here we have these gestures again with sort of like the hands in the pockets in that way. I kind of do just the neckline is so
Yeah.
off key.
Hmm.
McQueen would not design something with a neckline that looks like this, or Sarah Burton for that matter. Like I like the idea of an aviator, sort of this like aviator sort of jacket going on. I like the fabric. I like the peeling. I even like the color. But that neckline is off key. It's so off key.
From the show notes, is that a dress or a skirt underneath?
Pencil skirt.
A skirt. Okay.
Yeah, pencil skirt and black leather. This was kind of neither here nor there. I kind of like it in terms of the theme of the show, like the fabric used. That's kind of cool because this does channel that animalistic. And I think, see, this is what I mean. Like, if these kind of ideas and like the denim we talked about, these like horsehair boots kind of were more of a focus in the show, I think he would have been onto a winner. But I think in context with all the other stuff we saw, like those like one sleeve dresses
Mm.
and things like that, that's where it starts to become a bit all over the place. Or even that hoodie that I have no idea what that was.
I feel like that was the like influencer check mark list. He's next to you with the denim.
Why would influencers want to wear that though? It's like why?
And if they get it for free, they will.
Yeah. And then we have okay. It's just this sort of like corset sort of bodice sort of thing. Neither here nor there. It could be interesting. I think it would have been more interesting if this was like created into more like a fabric that looks like hay, because the more I look at it, the more I'm like, oh, you could have turned this into like some sort of like hay idea and kind of run with that idea. I think that would have been kind of like cool and interesting, but no. This, was a big no. The knitwear for me, I just didn't like any of the knitwear in the collection, if I'm being honest. I think the stronger pieces were like the coats that weren't cinched in the waist. The footwear, obviously, some of the skirts, I like those. The aviator jackets, if they didn't have the weird necklines. But the knitwear, yeah. It looks, this is where we get into JW Anderson, because it looks kind of caricature-y, which JW Anderson does, but it works because JW Anderson makes sort of like surrealist sort of, he comes from that perspective of things. So in the context of JW Anderson, that works. But in the context of McQueen, which is about precision in tailoring, that looks like costume. That looks like Wizard of Oz type thing.
Like a mushroom cap.
Yeah. And it's still a reference to McQueen, like I said, but just not executed in the way that it looks McQueen-esque. These coats, tailoring is not sharp enough. It just looks like any coat, genuinely. It's not, yeah. So we can just move past that. The cinched in waist, I was not a fan of that at all. This piece was cool, especially because of the fabric. Once again, like this whole like East End thing going on, with the sort of like nylon sort of fabric. The pinstripe tailoring is off key. Like if you look here, and in person, this was something that even the people that were sat beside me when we saw this look, we were like, yeah, tailoring's a bit off on that one. Yikes! This looks like it wasn't even fitted to the model, literally. So that's neither here nor there. Yeah, Deborah Shaw. To put Deborah Shaw in this is like, it airs on disrespectful in a way. Deborah Shaw is an icon. When you talk about House of McQueen and you talk about Deborah Shaw, they go hand in hand. You have to put Deborah Shaw in like a showstopper piece, not this, where once again, tailoring not sharp. People that know tailoring know this. I'm obviously learning more and more as I go with tailoring. And I speak to a lot of tailors. Someone I actually interviewed recently is someone that actually interned at Savile Row. So he was kind of, we did a whole thing about tailoring. Something really important about tailoring, this line here shouldn't be here if it fits properly. It should sit perfectly in your body. This indicates that it's not tailored properly. So once again, Deborah Shaw didn't deserve that. Cinched in waist, once again, not a fan of those looks. The knitwear, I think, were the train wrecks of the collection. I think the knitwear is 100% the train wreck. I don't even know what the idea. I genuinely, if you guys know in the comments, help me out. What is this a reference to?
Let me get my damn phone. I know Guinevere since Cenas wore that look with the hood, but I can't remember the collection.
I need to see if anyone in the comments knows the collection. I need to see the actual reference to see, like from the old McQueen show, to see kind of what McQueen did, because I don't even understand what's supposed to be going on there. Like the footwear though, footwear sensational. Yeah, these heels are amazing. And there's space here, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if that bit of the shoe is removable because of that space there.
I was wondering that even with the horse bit from the boots, like can that be removed?
Because this could be like a flat leather shoe, and then you can attach that. If that's the case, that's so cool. And once again, this is why I wish I went to the Reese, because I would actually have the answer to that question. But I'm not important enough to be invited. And after this review, I definitely won't be invited to the next Reese. This was kind of, we've seen this in so many recent shows. I think also we're coming off Rick Owens with the balloon idea, and they almost look exactly the same. Obviously, not saying that anyone copied anyone, like collections are made so many like months, sometimes in advance. But I think it's just like fatigue. But I do like this piece in terms of the theme, once again, like these like splice fur coming out of fabrics. I do like that. I think he should have played with that more, especially when it came to the tailoring, I think that would have made for a more interesting collection. This sort of like heavy wool with the tall base, I don't even know what this was about either.
It kind of came out of nowhere as well.
Yeah.
Didn't get those pieces.
It looks like it's difficult to make though. So craft wise, it's interesting. Kind of interesting because here you have like all the ribbing and then it just goes into this like crazy like wool and shilling sort of thing. The tool is so random though. Just the tool attached to it at the bottom is really random. I think it would be better off without any tool, to be honest. Yeah, we'll skip past those looks. Yeah, this is the look with the TikTok look, I like to call it, with the skull LED bag. Yeah, neither here nor there. This, I actually want to know what the fabric of the skirt was because I remember watching a show. So black crushed satin on the top. Interesting. So the top is viscose silk velvet and the skirt is a nylon mesh. Kind of looks like tulle, to be honest.
Yeah. These
boots were also nice.
I love them. I love those boots.
Across the collection, like footwear, so good. Once again, I like talking about, because once again, I don't know the name of the footwear designer, but it's good to give them the flowers because creative directors can't design footwear. Footwear is actually very advanced to design and make. And obviously they collaborate with the footwear designers, but there's actually a dedicated footwear designer that does all these things. And I think they need the credit.
That look had no shape. It was so unfair.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
That's like an insult to McQueen, genuinely. This is like you said, the Rick Owens looks. It does look very Rick Owens. Like, I'm with you on that one. Even like just the whole look, even down to like these super chunky boots. Actually, this looks more like Demna Balenciaga, actually. The boots. Yeah, the boots look more Demna Balenciaga. That's probably the only footwear I wasn't too keen on across the whole collection. I think everything else was like really good. I really like this piece. And I like the whole look actually as one. It's a silk nylon dress. But yeah, I think that look was really nice. These are the looks I liked. I think you didn't like this one because of the back.
Just because of the back ruined it.
Yeah, I'm with you on the back. Like, if you're going to do the craft and put this much craft into the piece, just do it all the way through. And at the back is just like black lining, which, yeah, doesn't look great at all. But it's weird because on some of the other pieces, it was done throughout. So I don't know what that was. Almost came across like rushed.
That dress could be 50 other designers.
But also, in the context of McQueen, the fit of it is really off. The fit, once again, tailoring, off. Here, off, off, tailoring. Because that's what McQueen stands for. Like, you can't say McQueen and not say tailoring. Those two things come hand in hand.
It looked more like Celine to me.
Yeah. This dress I really liked, kind of like this smashed iPhone idea. I thought that was really cool. And I think the next look is going to be, the look I like that you didn't like. I think, the tall bit kind of cheapens it. If this tall, I don't know why. I think obviously that's just what the inner material, that's kind of what this is made on. I think they could have put it on a fabric that makes it look, because here, and this is where the attention to detail is lacking, because McQueen or Sarah Burton wouldn't do this like empty space. You have to find something to do with this part of the fabric to make it look more flattering, because it's just random. It's like the stones kind of stop at the bottom here, then they kind of go up here. That looks like a huge lack of attention to detail. Like,
it doesn't make it look like they did it on purpose.
Exactly.
It was like a mistake.
This is another like kind of akin to Rick Owens. This fit-wise was horrendous. I think this is knitwear. This is knitted too. Yeah, it is knitwear. Once again, like I said, the knitwear pieces just weren't doing it for me at all. That was terrible. Terrible. Fabric, once again, interesting. East End. Shape-wise, I like the tailoring, but it doesn't fit correctly. But I like the tailoring there, especially the shirt. This, I think these were the last few looks. And the idea is obviously interesting. Once again, Seán McGirr's dad being a mechanic and sort of like it being made out of steel and the chassis, and obviously it being painted by the same paint that you would use to paint a car and stuff. Kind of cool. But side by side against what he's referencing, which is Alexander McQueen Spring Summer 2005 and what Sarah Burton did in 2011 Spring Summer, it's not as good as both of those examples. So yeah, that's the McQueen collection in a nutshell. Let's see what guys are saying in the chat, and then we'll move on to Givenchy, because I was actually a huge fan of Givenchy, and I got to see a re-see of that collection, which was great. So I actually got to see the clothes.
This will be my. I didn't watch. I've kind of gave up with that house, so I haven't.
You'll see that it was a pleasant surprise.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no creative director, right? So it was like the design team that sort of did it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me see what everyone's saying. Demna asked bustier dresses. I was definitely seeing a 56-year-old man in the club wearing that black suit and red shirt. All these clothes finna hit when we find them in thrift stores in 38 years. 38 years? Oh my God. Damn. Egregious.
Wow.
Damn. It looked more MCQ than McQueen. Damn, that's harsh. But I kind of see what you're saying there. That's harsh though, but damn. I don't think you get the collection. Okay, can you explain it to me then? I'm always open to learning and being corrected if I'm
Sean
wrong.
is in the chat.
Sean is in the chat. I mean, I just went through every look, and like there were so many looks that I did actually like, and so many pieces I did like. So it's not like I was like, oh my God, this collection is terrible, move on. And we've talked about the references, and that's the thing. I don't just say that things are trash without actually explaining why. And it's not like I even said it was trash, because I don't think that. I said it was disjointed and it didn't have a theme that made sense and it wasn't cohesive. But if there's anything more for me to understand about the collection, I'm open to you correcting me. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. Tick says the clock. Okay, I guess we're not going to get a response. So what I wanted to do was end this section by having just that video where McQueen talked about sort of his brand and how he feels about it post him.
Some of these houses should be closed, but you know what? It comes down to perfume.
I know, and we're so brand driven in this world.
There's no what's it called for it. There's no dignity with it. I think, you know. If I ever get that old and I'm still around and I leave my company, I just burn the place down.
Yeah.
There's no one to work there.
Really? So you'd never let someone carry on the McQueen tradition or the McQueen brand if you weren't actively involved?
I don't think so. I mean, it does because that person will have to come up with the concepts from my show, and my shows are so personal. How can that be? I mean, and then unless it turns into an awful runway of non-existenceness, and
that's a concept. I don't want.
Who's going to come and see that?
It's crazy how these people can see the future. It's insane.
I know, it's scary. It's really scary. So that's the McQueen show. Shout out to the people that are going to watch this long 1.5 hour section back. Have fun. But yeah, I think moving on, we're gonna talk about the Givenchy collection, which was kind of interesting. I think it wasn't interesting in the sense that they did anything revolutionary or anything new, but because obviously Givenchy now is in a state of limbo, they've kind of had quite a lot of creative directors in recent times, like Riccardo Tisci and Claire White Keller and Matthew Williams, and like that whole thing going on. But this collection is kind of like one of those like interim collections. So it was just done by the design team in-house. And it was really just about going through the archives and really modernizing Hubert de Givenchy's like silhouettes. And I found that kind of interesting because it tended to then be about the craft. And when I went to the Givenchy Risi, which was kind of cool, I could actually see that they thought about like every single detail. And it almost made me think, is Givenchy at a place where they should just do this and have a design team that does like more like classic clothing that a lot of women want to wear and will love to wear versus kind of like what Matthew Williams did, for example?
It's looking like that's the answer because 5 looks in and this is very chic. Why is it that big houses don't just operate with a design team? Like, because sometimes it turns out to be more successful than, a creative director at the helm.
I think it's the name thing. I think it's to do with you need that one name that just cements everything together and can kind of help promote the whole thing, or the one name that you can market singularly. It's hard to market like a design team as a concept, I guess.
But do people care anymore about? I think low-key we're kind of past the days of celebrity designer. The
Right.
John Gallianos, the Karl Lagerfeld. It's nobody knows who, like, unless you work in fashion, nobody knows who. I'm trying to pick a name out there, but like Matthew Blasey, like a regular person doesn't know as work as he does. A regular person doesn't know him by name. So I think some of these brands, I think it would be more cost effective for the brands to not have, a big name. Just have the design team do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Leah said John Galliano at Givenchy was magic. Same with Lee. Yeah, but that's John Galliano and Lee though. Like there's how many young designers now are as good as like Lee, and like, can you imagine? Because when I think of Lee McQueen, it's like this guy literally was a CSM graduate with Savile Row tailoring experience and pattern making at huge brands. Like when McQueen was at Romeo Giggly, it was huge. That brand was massive. Like, design students now just don't have that kind of experience, one, or skill, two. So even if we were like, oh, there's this like budding designer at CSM, they're not going to do a McQueen or a Galliano. It's just not. I think in general, I think people have less respect for actually learning craft. I think the way that a lot of designers used to, like, even when you read about them, they had this like sense of, like, even like Cristobal Balenciaga, he wanted to impress that woman that lived close to him that became his patron. Like, you can, like, when you read about the way he talks about it, like, he really wanted to impress her. And like, she was like, I bet you can't copy this Poiret dress. And he's like, watch me, I can make it even better. That's kind of the competitive nature that designers had. Whereas now it's just like, yeah, I'm just going to make some hoodies and make millions. Yeah. Like, it's just like, it's like no one cares.
That's missing across all creative industries, though, is the initial passion for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you just want to do it because it looks cool or you want to sell something, like, that's not the reason to want to be a part of fashion, of music, or whatever,
yeah.
art. That's not the reason.
Yeah.
This is quite good. I like this.
Yeah, this is an interesting take. I think today there's a bigger gap between veterans and newbies. Before it wasn't as deep. Yeah, I kind of agree and disagree. Why I say I disagree is when I was at CSM, I did see a lot of students that actually had work that I was like, wow. The only issue is that I don't think the industry in today's climate allows for those kind of designers to get a foot in the industry the way that Galliano and McQueen did. Because Galliano and McQueen, from their CSM like graduate collections, Anna Wintour was like singing their praises and like telling Bernard Arnault, you need to hire these people. That's not how Anna Wintour doesn't even know who the hell is designing at CSM now. So she's not going to tell Bernard Arnault or even know who the talented designers are to even be able to tell him, okay, look at this designer. It's just a different climate. So I don't think there's necessarily a talent gap because I saw firsthand sensational collections from graduate students. I think there isn't that same framework to facilitate designers going from, you know, school, designing for a few years and then going to a big house. Because now like brands want to hire celebrities and stuff like that. So this is a different climate. Or like famous designers or like big name designers. They're not like taking chances because they're playing with $20 billion
right
budget, like revenue figures, and they want it to go even higher. So the last thing you'll do is to hire like a no-name designer.
Okay. This was a very concise.
This is true though. McQueen had to show collections at the same time as YSL, Carl, Azadine. The bar was high. If Dilara is the future of fashion, we're fucked. Leo, you really don't like Dilara's work. God damn. I don't really know I haven't looked deeply into Dilara's work to like or dislike it, to be fair, but Leo seems to have like a thing against Dilara. What did Mike say? I do not see anything wrong with making hoodies if you think they're cool. Honestly, I believe it is still participation in fashion. Yeah, I think hoodies are fine. I wear hoodies all the time. I think I'm more talking about at the highest brands. So like in fashion, at least, the biggest brands used to influence where trends went. And they used to create trends and steer trends and sort of lead fashion forward and innovate fashion. And so now we're kind of going the other way around, where now everyday people are influencing fashion, and then luxury brands are just like, oh, what are people wearing? Hoodies? Okay, cool. Put that on the runway. It's like almost the other way around. So I mean, in that context is what I'm talking about. But in terms of like hoodies, there's nothing wrong with hoodies at all. I love hoodies. I think the lack of opportunity and companies not taking chances on new talent is something prevalent in the overall job market, even outside of fashion. It's harder than ever to get your foot in the door. Yeah, I kind of feel like that tends to be the case, and I don't know why. I also do not like how Matthew Williams talented Givenchy and recent leaks has led us to believe he is not a talented designer. I mean, I've always liked Alix. I just didn't like what he did at Givenchy. But it still hasn't changed my opinion necessarily on him as a designer. I just think that he can't make super ultra chic women's wear, which is what Givenchy is, which is fine. Like, not every designer can do everything. That's the thing.
He's good in the lane that he's in. Like he has some good ideas, but it's not like Nicolas Ghesquière. It's not on that level.
Oh, this is a good point, by the way. This collection is more focused. The Gucci one without the creative director was lost. Oh yeah, that's so true. Because it's so true. Because the Gucci collection without the creative director, it looked like it was like a product line. It was almost like, okay, we need to get every single type of product in this collection. So there's every single type of customer seen in this collection. It was so random, but this is like once again, it's just going back, looking at Givenchy's heritage. And after, I'm going to actually, I have some images on my laptop that I'll show you that I took from the Reese, kind of like detail shots, just to show some of the details. But no, so interesting. So interesting. And I think actually what I loved about this collection the most, being able to see the Reese, is I'm so angry that a lot of fashion brands, especially luxury brands, have subpar quality, but their prices are through the wazoo. I was just looking at Chloe's prices because they came out, I think, yesterday. And one of the dresses is just like tall, and it's like 26K.
Whoa.
And so it's like, for all these prices that these brands are charging and the quality is actually going down, it was great to actually feel the fabrics and be like, okay, this feels amazing. Oh, are people talking about the best designers still working right now are Yoji and John for sure, no doubt about it. I think maybe in terms of like mainstream, but like I think Olivier Thaiskens is like really good, but he's just not as mainstream, I guess. I think Gareth Pugh is definitely on par with like a Yoji and a John Galliano. I think that Gareth Pugh isn't as famous, well known, promoted, I guess, as those designers. But I think Gareth Pugh, I'd put his name there. There's loads of them, to be honest. If I have to think about it, there are quite a few. They're just not as pushed, I think.
I think Olivier would have been nice at McQueen, but I always root for him at any open spot. I want him to come back to the big house so bad.
Yeah. I would love to know that list. I have to sit down and write it and then like post it somewhere. Maybe like community tab and see what people say. The Chloe prices were set by the devil himself. Those prices aren't. I don't even know. I think we're at a point in fashion now where they're just making prices outrageous on purpose. And the reason why they're doing that is so that they steer you into buying the bags and the perfume, and all the ready-to-wear does is just sell the dream. Because it's so unattainable, it makes the cheaper products more, I don't know, it makes them more desirable in a way. Because it's like, oh my God, I'm buying something that's part of a world of a brand that sells dresses for like 25K. I genuinely think that's what they're doing now, because a tall dress for 25K is just, there's no world in which that makes sense.
That makes so much sense now that you said that. Just to have the range be so, that makes so much sense.
So far away from, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get these.
Chloe bags are already
images.
like crazy expensive anyway.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, Chloe was never cheap anyway.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if well, I guess it's not going to matter with the Givenchy collection, because usually with these collections that get designed by a team, they don't really get any promotion, any marketing. People just kind of move on from them.
True.
And that was a really good collection.
I'm trying to see. I might just have to share my whole screen. Let's see. Okay, yeah, let me share my whole screen. So these are some of the images. There's quite a few, but like that was like one of the dresses, which if you zoom in, it was actually made by like tiny little pins, like these like wires. So that's what I mean. Like you can't really tell that it's that when it's not up close, but it's like insane that they've created those wires and they've used it to create texture. So like here you can see like they've used darker colors to kind of create a shadow. And obviously this knot too is like a staple of like Hubert de Givenchy. He had like knots on a lot of things. So they used that as like a motif across this collection. So this was one of the pieces I was like, oh, that's really nice. Yeah, that's another like close-up piece.
That's really
Close-up
beautiful.
look. Oh yeah, that was like the back, because obviously it was like a train to the dress. And then yeah, that's some more an image of the back. Oh yeah, that was like one of the feather dresses. That was really interesting. Trying to see if I can find, because I had some favorite pieces, like even the cat thing was really cool. I think this is it. So yeah, in one of the blazers, they had these like cat motifs. And then they also had, let me see if
That
I
was
can find
inside
the
of the
image.
blazer.
No, that's on the outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they just have like embroidered eyes, which is a reference to Givenchy and like the cat, and also even down to the buttons were like oval shaped, which is what Givenchy used to do. Even the lining, first of all, the lining was really amazing. Secondly, the lining they brought back the monogram from the 70s, which is kind of cool to see because it kind of looks like retro, kind of like vintage in a way. See if I can find an image of that. So many images, I'm forgetting which one is which. How do you view? I don't know how you view the images bigger, but let's just like fly through them.
I was gonna say I'm still on Windows. I haven't even moved on.
Yeah, I'm like on Mac, but like I'm like new Mac. So I feel like I don't know how to do like most of the things I used to do on like Windows. Okay, yeah, this is an example of like the 70s monogram. Here.
Oh yeah.
So it was used as a print, but it was also used as the lining of all the pieces too, which was a nice touch.
It's not offensive either.
Yeah. But the way they do it, because the way it was styled was so chic, so you wouldn't actually realize that it's a monogram, and obviously what it's paired with too is kind of what made it like that. Oh yeah, this was just like a back detail. A lot of the coats had this like slit on the back, which you couldn't see because you couldn't really see the back on the runway. This was really nice, this like feather piece, and it was all sequins, made with like all sequins, so you can see it here, close up. And like the amazing thing about these pieces too is they felt just as good as they looked. Like the fabrics were actually amazing, which I cannot say that for many brands. I just can't. Yeah, this was another one of the like coats that had like the slit at the back. Let's see, running through. Yeah, so this is like the cat piece. So you'd have to look close to actually realize the cat motif, and then also
I didn't even notice that during the runway show.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a little
detail. It's lovely.
I think this was one of those collections where everything was all about the details, and like it's actually the one that was good that I got to see up close, even though I didn't get to see a lot of the collections up close, because this was actually one where it's like, oh, that was how it was made. Oh yeah, this was like one of the pictures of the lining I got. That's like the monogram in one of the linings of the coats. So yeah, it was just like all in all, like a really cool collection. Yeah, like really just all about craft and just like a return to just the chic Givenchy. Now, do they need a creative director to kind of like jazz everything up and then like turn everything on turbo? I don't necessarily know. Because inherently with this collection being so chic, it makes it super commercial also. Which is kind of what they want, no? They kind of want stuff to sell.
I'm hoping, I mean, before they even get a new designer, that this collection gets some type of movement, you know, gets red carpet views, at least for the team, because that was really good.
Aya has 11x videos tabs open.
No.
You guys are crazy. If you look closer, you can see he has a folder with the exact schematics of how to break into LVMH to take down Bernard Arnault.
You might.
Maybe. 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 When I repost it, you guys can pause and do your analysis
Mhm.
and see if there's anything to see.
YouTube detectives.
What happened to the person that was going to correct me on the McQueen collection?
I told you that was Seán.
I'm still waiting for like I'm waiting for the feedback, like genuinely. Corinne, what failed star the Givenchy show? Maybe why it looks so elevated. Oh, interesting. I remember they mentioned, I even think when Matthew Williams was still there, they talked about Corinne like working alongside him in a certain capacity. So that's very interesting. He did a Madeleine McCann. No, the thing is that like I don't like to be in an echo chamber. So genuinely, if someone has like a critique of like what I've said, I'm so open to like listening to what he had to say. It's just that he just disappeared. He was like, "You don't understand the collection." I was like, "Okay, that's interesting. Can you explain it to me?" And he just didn't explain it. Like, it's like, oh my god, I actually wanted to learn something. I think it's very important for designers to work with stylists. Oh yeah, 100%. I think a lot of brands that have had like a big resurgence recently, I think a lot of it has to do with the stylist. A massive example is Miu Miu. I think Miu Miu's return has a lot to do with like Lotte Volkova going there and styling it. And I think literally from the second she got there is literally the same second that it started to become huge again. So I think that's really important. This collection is very coherent to the last few efforts of Matthew. Yeah, there were kind of some like the idea, like the big padlocks with the bags and stuff, and on the heels and stuff. They were kind of still there. So there was kind of some continuation from what Matthew Williams was doing at Givenchy, but just way more chic.
Way more chic.
But I mean, Corinne is literally like Madame Chic. Like she's like Madame Paris. Yes.
I'm so surprised she hasn't gone on to like be creative director somewhere else, you know.
I know, right? And she knows, I mean, geez, from like Vogue days and stuff, she knows every designer, every PR, like she knows everyone in the industry. So I think she could do it. She has good taste. She's styled shoots, obviously, like her magazine and stuff, like CR Fashion Book.
She gets everybody to be in CR Book. Everybody.
I know. It's because she knows everyone. Yeah. It's Corinne. It's like, but I'm actually a fan of Corinne because I just think everything Corinne does is just so like, it's always so chic. Like even I went to a perfume store recently and she has this like new perfume line, and even the fragrance notes were so chic. It's like, oh, she's using like basically like weed, but then it's mixed with like bergamot, and then it smells just like so different. It's like, this is so Corinne. It's just like
very French.
Yeah. Everything she does is just like on the money.
Yeah, I really loved her French Vogue as well. That was a really really nice era.
People are still talking about the person running away. Okay, so I think it's fitting to move into the last collection I'm talking about today, which is Balenciaga, my favorite brand, Balenciaga. But yeah, before I go into it, did you see the show?
I just watched it, like I think yesterday.
Okay, what did you think about it?
It just from the venue alone, it reminded me of that show he just did a few years ago. But the clothes haven't moved anywhere. They've actually gone backwards as far as like design. You know what he's trying to move forward with is not
no 4K Balenciaga. No 4K. Wow. So yeah, I kind of agree with what you said. I think like I'm a fan of Demna. I've always been a fan of his work, especially the earlier work. I think the LA collection was a massive low for me. And when I posted that video, a lot of people said that you don't understand Demna's work, which I find hilarious. I literally have 10 videos on my channel, I counted, analyzing his work and all his references and where his references come from. However, I think that it starts to come to a point where you can't just critique things and kind of like exist in that system. So what I mean by that is recently, Kathy Horan and Demna Gvasalia had an interview. I think it's called Rethinking Heritage on YouTube. Everyone can watch it. It's actually quite interesting to see like Demna's thought process on like everything he designed at Balenciaga. I reacted to it on Patreon, which is just basically me critiquing Kathy Horan for like 2 hours. Because I felt like she wasn't being critical or asking the right questions or just like agreeing with everything Demna said, even if it didn't make sense. So that was kind of that. If you want to watch that, join the Patreon. But in that interview, he talks about the fact that he has this like really good working relationship with the merchandisers at Balenciaga. But at the same time, he feels kind of stifled by the whole commercial machine that it creates, because the merchandisers will say, okay, black trousers and black hoodies, we need that in the collection because that's what sells, and da-da-da. And he said that he always grapples with himself. And the way he was talking in the interview, he was like, even like how commercial and the whole commerce of the industry, and that's why I'm always doing a commentary on like consumerism and stuff, which he's done so many times, fair enough. Right. But the way he was talking, I was thinking, someone that feels so passionately about consumerism will not be the creative director at Balenciaga. Like people that are, you know, vegan activists don't eat meat. The same way that, because they genuinely believe in like, especially the ones that feel strongly about, you know, animal cruelty or the environment, that's why they will not eat meat, regardless of the circumstance. They would rather starve. So Demna saying, I'm really at odds, and, you know, I really hate how commercial the industry has been, and the industry has gone so commercial, and there's a lack of craft and art. And I'm like, but you're still the creative director at Balenciaga though. So how can you feel so strongly about that, but then still be in a position where you're designing clothes that basically push that system more in the realm of, you know, fashion going away from craft, it being a lot about hype and, you know, themes of just consumerism and promoting consumerism? Didn't really make a lot of sense. And I wish that Kathy Horan picked him up on that, which obviously she won't, because I don't know, she walked at Balenciaga and now she's interviewing Demna and they have a good working relationship now, so they're friends, and she's not going to do that. But it just made for a very, not an interesting interview, at least for me, because it just ended up Demna saying everything that he always says, and like no one really asked the right questions about it, or says, okay, but how can you feel strongly and then still be at Balenciaga then? Right.
And then he says all that, and then he has the labels and the tags poking out of these looks.
Right. Right. And it's funny because I even think in this collection he said it was inspired by sort of this theme of what luxury is in the modern day, and sort of like a commentary on what modern luxury is, which anytime he does those themes, interesting things come out of it. But then the critique of mine will always be, one, you've done this idea 10 zillion times. Secondly, it's like, it's just like, okay, it's a commentary on capitalism and consumerism and modern day luxury. Okay. Like, for example, he has this thing in the show notes where he calls it like the new suit, which is basically a hoodie and a matching pant. And his whole thing is like saying, this is like a modern suit now. This is what, back in the day, everyone used to wear suits. Now everyone is wearing like sweatpants and hoodies.
You do that like every collection.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like what he does, and this is why, fair enough how he's able to convince his fans that his ideas are actually developing, because he kind of reframes what he does. But it's actually the same ideas and the same looks and the same tailoring and styled the same way too.
And then the only time we ever get anything new, the only thing that I've seen new in this collection are those those drape dresses that look like they've been like smashed or pressed.
Yeah.
I like those, but other than that,
Yeah.
this could have been from 4 years ago.
Mm. And it's just, so that's kind of the idea. Everything is like a commentary on that. So even there were these looks that were kind of like these backpacks or like nylon gym bags or like even like dust bags kind of upcycled into different pieces, which once again is a commentary on like modern day luxury. Like kind of like these are the dust bags that you would normally get when you buy an expensive Balenciaga bag or footwear. And now we're going to transform this into, you know, a dress as a commentary on what modern day luxury means in today's society, which it's an interesting idea, but he's done it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I don't have an issue with designers, you know, repeating ideas. Like Rick Owens does it all the time. Yohji Yamamoto does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
However, what they're repeating are actually quite more interesting ideas and interesting silhouettes. It's one thing for Yohji to create a whole silhouette of tailoring and then keep doing it. It's another thing to just get drawstrings and then turn those into dresses, or like have like oversized hoodies and then do that season after season after season. Like they're two completely different things. One is having like a recognizable silhouette regardless of what you do. Like Rick Owens has such a recognizable way of doing things that he could design gloves and I would know it's Rick Owens.
Mm-hmm.
He could literally design socks. I'll be like, oh, those Rick socks.
Yeah,
Demna put high class trip pants on the runway. Oh my god.
His inability to move forward past this anti-consumerism, anti-fashion thing is boring at this point.
But he's at odds with himself though, which is really strange because like once again, I implore everyone to watch that interview with Kathy Horan. He is literally at odds with himself because he's literally saying that I have an issue with the capitalism of fashion and I have an issue with the way the fashion system functions and I have an issue with the way things are done in the industry. And then, you know, he critiques it. Wouldn't you say Demna does it because he's critiquing the industry from the inside, using his position to make a commentary? That's a good point, but then is Balenciaga the right platform to do that? Because even a lot of stuff that he's doing is basically what he did at Vetements, is just a different name. Because even this whole idea of like, you know, a commentary on capitalism and consumerism, like I said, he's been doing it forever since Vetements days, having these like flips on ultra capitalist logos of companies. In this collection, he did a thing on eBay because the invites were this sort of like eBay thing, and that was actually really cool. I think what Demna does also is like world building. I think he's sensational at world building. I think he's actually the best at world building. Like the invites, the shows, the sets is always interesting. I think this set, once again, going back to like modern day and like a commentary on modern day, the set kind of started with kind of like really nice landscapes. And then as time progresses, AI sort of like degenerates these landscapes into kind of what you're seeing now, which is just like a mishmash of just like crazy things and like different things that you see online. And it's kind of a reference to the chaoticness of online and kind of like social media and the fact that kind of like random and crazy things are pushed to us constantly. And we kind of have overconsumption of just like information in the modern day. That's kind of a cool idea, and it's kind of like a cool way to weave that into the set. And I think Demna has always done good sets. I don't think his sets are ever really weak, apart from the Erewhon thing, because it was literally just Hollywood, and that was kind of just vapid. But outside of that, I think he's always been good at that. But in terms of the clothes, it's just more of the same. It's just
at this point, us waiting for evolution from Demna, you might as well. It ain't gonna happen.
And like his fans will tell you, oh, but like he had these really cool visor sunglasses, and he had these like, because in this collection there were these beanies that everyone was talking about, where they cover your eyes, but you can still see through them. which everyone was talking about, which is kind of cool. Like those beanies there, for example, which is kind of cool. He also had like really
Where would you wear that
interesting.
though?
I know, but
If you wear that in the wrong neighborhood, they're gonna literally bop you upside of the head and take your Balenciaga. You can't wear like where are you wearing that for real?
Yeah. And then he had these like, I don't even want to be too mean, but let me just say it. So in his interview with Vogue, he talked about this idea of, and I'm trying to find the exact quote, where him and his staff, like him and his team at Balenciaga, they play this game where I think it's like make a look in 60 seconds type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just like a fun thing that they do in like their studio, for example. But then he said the last looks were a reference to that. So the last looks were literally just looks that they threw together in like, I'm not sure if it, let me make sure I'm not misquoting. I'm not sure if it's actually 60 seconds, but I know it's like a short amount of time. Let me find it. Why can't I find this quote?
Taping a knit is wild. That looks so weird to me.
Yeah. Don't know why I can't find it. Wait, let me see, because I know it's like in the Vogue article. Let's see. So yeah, to quote him, he said, "We have this 1 minute to create a dress challenge in the studio, like Project Runway. So we were throwing things on the body and then taking pictures together. It's very playful. For me, it's actually this coexistence of both, because that's what makes us human now. The imperfection, the failure, or the miss. I love the idea. I think it's beautiful. That's what differentiates us from the machines." And so that's why at the end you have like this mishmash of like just like 50 bras sewn together, or like, 50 bits of lingerie sewn together. Something that I did think was kind of interesting though, he had this look that was 3 hoodies sewn together. And it was made to sort of like, I think it was made to mimic like Balenciaga's bubble dress, which I guess it doesn't have the volume. Like Balenciaga's bubble dress actually has volume going outward from the body, like below the waist. Whereas it just has some sleeves sticking out. I guess you can kind of reach and say that it's a reference to the Balenciaga bubble dress.
Did you see the dress that they designed for Michelle Yeoh for the Oscars?
Oh no, I didn't see that. I haven't actually looked at all the Oscars looks. I was I'm still behind on that.
They were good this year. But
Nice.
he did the look for Michelle Yeoh, and apparently he bought 3 couture dresses that he found on eBay and pulled them apart and then made one dress for her. The idea sounds cool, but the dress is not it's not flattering.
Yeah. Oh, Micah wants to hop on. But yeah, I think I'm just a bit jaded because obviously I'm coming off like reacting to the interview, and obviously like Kathy Horan and them just like him contradicting himself for like literally a good 30 minutes again. And I have some quotes from Kathy Horan's review that I actually wanted to critique. If I can actually find those. So she said, many designers are also showing suits in lightweight fabrics for a more draped and fluid look. But again, Demna takes his suits further. They appear to be almost liquefied on the body, indeed, not unlike super baggy jeans and cargos that remain popular with young people. Now, in a way, that's kind of a good point in terms of like, if you're making a collection that's sort of a inspired by the modern day clothing and kind of what people wear and a commentary on that, and the fact that now everyone wears baggy clothes, it makes sense that the clothing is just comically baggy. It's insane. But then it fits so terribly that on the other hand, you could just say it's just horribly fitting clothing. And there's a difference between things being oversized and ill-fitting. And I think people don't know that there's a difference between that. Hello, Micah. Is he going to speak? Is he going to... is he muted? Is he not
We
muted?
can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Yeah, we still can't hear you. Bro flexing with the sound off. But the thing about Demna is like one takeaway I took from that interview with Kathy Horan is that he said once again that he doesn't feel the same constraints when he designs his haute couture. He doesn't feel that there's any like commercial expectation, so he feels like he can be free, and I think that shows, because I think I've loved every one of his couture collection. I think they're actually amazing, and I think so. It's weird because in his haute couture collections, he does the same idea again in terms of like, I'm trying to modernize what Cristobal Balenciaga is for 2024, or like I'm trying to kind of change the context of Cristobal Balenciaga's clothes. So that's why you'll see like a hoodie, but the way he does the hoodie in the haute couture collection makes sense. In terms of like an idea of, okay, we're trying to bring an idea of what Balenciaga is and the craft, but with silhouettes that you associate with, you know, modern days. But then in ready to wear, he just reduces it into nothingness. I don't know why, because it's the same designer.
My thing is if you're a big fan of this brand and you're buying, you know, because you like Demna and Balenciaga, how many times can you buy the same coat or the same hoodie, the same baggy pant? Why do you need all of that? There has to be some type of I don't know, change up or something every season. It's not to me. I've been bored for a long time with his with this whole aesthetic, like the whole Balenciaga aesthetic. I think just needs to go away. So,
and it's kind of funny because also even people that we say kind of have a design language that doesn't change, like Rick Owens, it's not even necessarily true, because Rick Owens is more, maybe he develops it by, let's say, a few percent every season. Let's say 10% every season. So by the time you look back 10 years, you're like, oh, it looks completely different. But Demna genuinely has not developed the aesthetic or the silhouette at all. Okay, Mike, I think you can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, bro. The chat said that Karen were bombing my internet. I believe
you. Karen didn't want you to spit.
Yeah. So now basically, well, Io and I have chatted about this collection off camera anyway. And yeah, I pretty much agree with most of the sentiments. But what we were talking about in the chat, I was like, oh, I might as well just say on video, is that Balenciaga seems to be one of few brands where like the commercial mass-produced pieces that they put out seem to be doing very well right now. So even though you can have one of these collections that like, if we're talking about from like a technical perspective and in terms of like the storytelling that you're doing is not very interesting, they're in a weird place where they're still moving units, so it's minor.
Right. Right.
Especially where what I was saying.
But sorry to cut you off though, but I wanted to like kind of to piggyback off what you're saying. Do you think that's why Demna is at odds with himself? Because like in the
potentially, because they're in a weird place where I said in the chat, I think very few brands reach this space where like they've pierced the zeitgeist to the level that Balenciaga have. Where like think about when you and I first got into, well, I'll speak more for myself. When I first got into fashion, you'd been into fashion a few years already, like 2016, 2017. People our age thought that Balenciaga was a joke. We were like, why are they making hoodies this big? Why are they making jeans this big? Fast forward 8 years, those jeans are in. Other brands are replicating them. You have Jaded London, ASOS. Everyone wants the biggest, baggiest jeans they can find. That's what's trending. Throw it on Tim's, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, you have all these garments that we literally used to make fun of have suddenly become the norm. So you're at this weird place where arguably the weakest Balenciaga collection that's ever been shown under Demna is at a time when culturally Balenciaga's like so hot.
Yeah, I think what you're saying though is to do with the masses, which obviously is fact, because like the reason why people used to make fun of Balenciaga at the time is you would see like all these Essex boys wearing like skin tight skinny jeans with Alexander McQueen like sneakers. So that's why anything baggy to them just looked absolutely ridiculous, which is why like people in the UK used to make fun of it all the time. But fashion people, because the thing about when you're into fashion, all the trends are all happening at once. So like in Paris Fashion Week, I saw some brands do skinny silhouettes and I saw like brands like Balenciaga do really baggy things. So everyone is always doing things at once. So you're never going to see something baggy or skinny at any point in time and be like, oh my God, that looks like shocking in a way. But I guess for like the everyday person, especially like we can only speak for the UK because that's what we know, but I think that's why they
and I'm thinking about
as like crazy.
As I said that as well, I was thinking about like at least in hip hop American celebrity culture where like I really don't think you can pull up a picture of any hip hop artist right now where they're not wearing Balenciaga in like and I don't know, I just think it's I was saying that I think we're probably going to see at least 3 or 4 more years of Demna. And I think that's purely because of what I described of like, well, commercially, the stuff is doing so well. So even if me and Joe blogs and you don't like the runway collection, that doesn't change the fact that people are going to the stores and buying it. Everyone's got
100%.
So, and it's the reason I was saying it's odd as well is because, well, traditionally, you know, if it's a whack runway, then the collection probably isn't going to do well. But we're in this weird.
So it
will.
My thing is like, it sells and it will sell well. I think my thing is more because I'm critiquing Demna as a designer himself. Demna literally in the Cathy Horan interview, like, and everyone once again go watch it. I keep saying go watch it. He said, and I'm not quoting him directly because I can't remember what he says. So I'll paraphrase. So disclaimer before Demna sues me, but basically, what he said was that he said that he feels like fashion, like art in fashion and like design in fashion is like dead. That there are only a few designers that actually care about like craft in fashion or care about like designing not just to design for product and for like things that will sell, but just designing to push like fashion forward, right? And I'm like, do you think that you're one of the people like doing what you like? Do you think you're one of those though?
No, but it's again with Demna, it's such a weird one because I feel like every time I sit down and read one of, because often his interviews are written. When I read a written interview from him or I watch one, I'm like, I can't tell if he's trolling or not at this point. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's either it lacks so much self-awareness that it's like, oh, clearly you're missing like social cues here. Or it's like, oh, you must just be trolling us because you're describing yourself without describing yourself. Oh, it's so strange that there are all these antics and, you know, things on the runway. I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, your last 4 years of runways have been like exactly that. You know what I mean? Like, just it's always all his interviews are like that. I feel like at this point.
He said that nothing he does is marketing or a gimmick, and then
Please.
he basically had a show on the Hollywood strip. Like, you could see the Hollywood sign. Cardi B was walking horribly on the runway. You had Kim Kardashian basically everywhere to be seen. The cameras were literally following her everywhere she went. You had a collab with Erewhon. Like, nothing you do is about marketing and gimmicks. And like, I'm not saying this is just coming from him. Once again, it's a brand.
Right.
They need to make money. There's a whole team. Like he said, the merchandisers, even in the Kathy Horan interview, he said that like he doesn't feel free designing ready to wear. And I can even see it. Like, I see it. Because the haute couture collections, sensational. I've loved every single haute couture collection he's done.
Especially
So I'm not saying it's all up to him. But that being said, what he says in the interviews is just like, there's just clearly a lack of self-awareness there.
But do you think is a PR team that suggests to him what to say? Or like, what do you think's happening? Where is this disconnect coming from, do you reckon?
Yeah, this is actually what I think. I think Demna's trying too hard to be deep and insightful and just digs himself into a hole. I definitely agree with that.
He's designed himself into a box at this point because, like you said, Micah, is so successful commercially. This is what everybody wants now. This is what consumers want. This is what the Balenciaga team wants, so they all can make money. Demna is at this point is kind of held by the chains of his own aesthetic. Maybe, and then like you said, like couture is his playground in a way to kind of do what he wants, and that's why they've all been really good.
Interesting. So do you think? Well, I don't know, because before I was kind of under the impression that, you know, especially around the scandal era, that when people are saying, oh, maybe Demna's gonna get dropped, blah 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 blah. But now that I've kind of taken a step back, I think it's going to be like this for 3 or 4 more years. That's what I reckon.
He makes too much money. I can't even see a time when Demna is going to leave. Something bad would really have to happen because
that's
he
what I was
makes
saying.
so much money.
Something terrible would have to happen. Like.
Well, let's pray for another scandal. I
mean, if you look at his collections on a product level, they're also quite interesting because the footwear, there's always some new like footwear design that's like cool and like people wear. The bags are always like kind of wacky. Like in this collection, they had like these bags that were the motocross gloves, like motorcycling gloves made into bags. So all those kind of like ideas. So from a product level, there's always like that piece that you can kind of pick out of the collection. But all in all, he literally at this point is saying the same thing, just in a million different ways.
Like 3 different ways.
By a million different ways, I don't mean the clothes. I mean by what he says.
Okay.
The clothes look exactly the same. I just mean in terms of what he says about it is kind of, he explains it differently. So, for example, the LA one, the Erewhon collection, was basically a reference and almost like a study on LA culture and like modern like online culture and kind of like people's obsession with celebrity and consumerism. This one is about consumerism, secondhand clothing, kind of like that. That sometimes it's like, in fact, this collection is actually way more akin to a Vetements collection that he did actually, that was about the one that had like the Internet Explorer logo and that sort of stuff, because there's those similar flips and ideas when he's talking about eBay, and he even had like eBay flips in his collection, for example. When the contract with Demna expires, I don't know, but they're definitely renewing that contract. He makes too much money. Let that be my biggest problem in life.
Right. You think he's crying at the design table when he has to make hoodies? No. Mm-mm.
Oh my god, I want to see some of these pieces up close. I mean, there's cool stuff. I mean, everything is in the show notes anyway. Like, this was kind of fun. It's like sequins everywhere, and what he did was, obviously this shape is a very Balenciaga shape, but these are actually shoulder pads put into the dress, so it kind of creates this wacky shape, which is kind of like a flip on, like, yes, it's a Balenciaga shape, but done in a different way. That's really interesting and cool. The visors that everyone's talking about, these sunglasses.
That was the best look to me. That dress is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I like that dress. This piece is not for me, but everyone keeps talking about, and that's the thing about show notes. I think people just get like gassed up by show notes, because in show notes, I think it says it has some like resin treatment.
Ugh.
And like even Kathy Horan was acting like he literally did some like revolutionary thing. They just treated it with like resin and then basically like did a few things to it so that the texture is slightly different to like normal faux fur. That's all.
It
But like
looks
they made it
somebody
seem
had
like
drowned
it's
a
like
cat.
they just made it seem like, oh my god, they like resin treated this like coat, and it was like it's like it's not that serious.
It's so ratty. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so all those coats kind of have the same idea. Okay, yeah, this is the whole like incognito beanie, kind of like you can't see my eyes, but I can see you. You think I can't see you, but I actually can. Yeah, so do you know what I love about Demna fans? Kind of like to respond to this comment. So I love it because I'm going to clip this video and I'm going to get so much hate because they're like, you don't understand it, and then they're going to regurgitate the show notes for me, like they're literally not available online. And like they're gonna be like, you don't get it. Like he was doing frozen draped dresses. It's like, yeah, that's just a description of what the dress is on the
Right.
show notes. Like it's not. And they start trying to make it deep. But it's cool that I think it's cool that a designer like Demna has a really cult following. I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of, I'm trying to think of other designers that have that kind of following. Maybe like Adi Slimon, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Phoebe Philo.
Phoebe.
Yoji definitely has a super cult following. Yoji has like a cult following like that. Rei Kubo does. Yeah, there's like a few of them.
Miuccia fans have given up on her.
Really?
Nah,
No way. I was like, what? Miuccia, the Miuccia girls are the Miuccia girls.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Miuccia Prada could commit murder and they'd still love her. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's just weird because Demna's earlier work was so interesting. I'm not even talking about Vetements, like even Balenciaga, like, and the themes and ideas were so different. So like one collection, especially like one of my favorite collections of his was that like Parliament collection, that like the blue set. Also, I think that was around the time that the UK did Brexit, or like we announced Brexit or something. So the timing of it was amazing. And obviously that was like EU blue, the set. And then it was kind of like this idea, the whole theme of the collection was this idea of like power dressing and the idea of like the politician and dressing a certain way, and how you dress, it determines like how you're seen by society, which was so cool because actually, let me go through that because this collection is actually boring me. Because just to go to that collection, like what made it so interesting actually.
No, you had it. It's spring 20.
It's 2020. So what was so interesting also, I'm not sure because they normally have the beauty looks. So yeah, kind of like this stuff. They had this like weird ass makeup, this like stuff here, like at the cheekbones, which was like a commentary on, and I think he touches on that again in the interview. Kind of like this idea of like plastic surgery and the fact that kind of because this collection is about power dressing and politicians and politics and about how you're perceived by the way you dress, is this idea of, you know, people changing things about themselves, getting Botox and getting plastic surgery to change how people perceive them. And so he had some interesting ass themes, and that's why this is so like tailoring heavy, even down to like the tags, right, that they're wearing. It's supposed to look like, you know, the tag of like someone that ushers people into like parliament and stuff. It's so interesting. And it's like, how do you go from that to talking about consumerism and like a commentary on consumerism, capitalism, like how many seasons in a row? Like it was so interesting. Like the start of his Balenciaga.
I'm guessing maybe because I don't know how this collection did, you know, in the stores, but because it was so tailoring heavy, maybe it didn't sell that hard. And so they went back to hoodies. I don't know. Because this, I do love this collection.
It's just so interesting, like concept-wise, clothing-wise, theme-wise. And this is when it was just, yeah, all about the shapes and the tailoring and stuff. Even when they had like the puffer jackets or stuff, it's always like some really like interesting ass like flipping shape. It's like some weird
the duckbill boots that were like,
yeah. He was like, actually, like this is innovative. This is like, because when he started at Balenciaga, his whole MO was, okay, I'm not going to copy Cristobal because no one can be Cristobal, which fair enough. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to reimagine the ethos of Cristobal for a modern customer. And so having these kind of like puffer jackets, which obviously Cristobal would never design a puffer jacket because it was just not a thing that people around him used to wear. But then adding this sort of like weird shapes and weird tailoring and like cocooning yourself in a way, it's just so and like all of that is just so lost now. In the modern collections, it's just so lost, and it's really sad. It's like really upsetting.
I think this collection was too chic for the consumer. It was. You know.
But then, does it matter though? Because obviously, most people don't really buy the runway pieces, and Balenciaga will always have their permanent collection, just like oversized hoodies anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So I always wonder. With those things. Peak Demna, the streets won't forget. No, but it was just like, and it's not even just this collection, by the way. It's like, let me scroll through like some of his older collections too. I don't want it to seem like I feel like sometimes it comes across like I'm a Demna hater. It's not that. It's just to do with like he hasn't developed, and I think he's saying the same thing, and he's contradicting himself, which is leading me to believe that like he kind of knows what he's doing, but he's trying his best to like mask it with words, but then ends up contradicting himself. Yeah, where do I even start? Like all these collections were interesting. That was the climate change one. This first fall menswear was really interesting.
Yes,
this was the like Martine Rose. That was like the Triple S, and like they had the motocross boots, these like motorcycling boots. Like tailoring wise, like masterclass. Like even bringing Cristobal Balenciaga shapes in tailoring to menswear. And also why this collection was so iconic was it was at a time when menswear was actually a bit dry from like a silhouette standpoint. It was like everyone was just doing like suits, but suits that had no interesting shape. It was almost like menswear was an afterthought. This was when I was like, this was around, you know, the Prada Raf Simons, like, oh, what is he going to do with the menswear type of conversation. And so Demna actually brought menswear that has interesting shapes, like tailored in interesting ways. Even this puffer jacket too, I love it because it's like the the C-shaped sort of Balenciaga puffer jacket. And then that was funny, the whole Bernie Sanders campaign thing. It's just like, yeah, how do you go from like this to like, but like you said, maybe it is too chic. Maybe it's not.
It's not streetwear enough.
Which is weird though, because I think of this as like super ultra wearable. But then again, maybe it's not, because maybe I'm just like, yeah, but it's just a coat or whatever. Then maybe most people don't like. Maybe the silhouettes are almost too like much for them. Like maybe it looks too comical in a way.
I think this collection too is when people still weren't wearing, at least men's, they weren't wearing Balenciaga clothes. It was the Triple S that caught on, and then I think everybody started wearing the hoodies and the pants and everything from them, from this collection.
Right. Like all the shit, it's just, I'm trying to, let me see where for me it just really started to fall apart. I think it was from, even this collection was like Spring Summer 23 was starting to fall apart a bit.
Yeah.
Like clothing wise, concept and set, as always, amazing.
I think the one for me that I remember when they had that big painted rock. It was like was it a rock?
Oh, that was, I know what show you're talking about. That was, I think this one, Fall Winter 2018.
That was the first one I remember hating. I did not like that collection.
Yeah, I did like the collections that came after it though.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think from that, like, actually, yeah, the controversy collection, and I'm not just saying it because that was the collection that had the controversy. That collection in particular, I think, actually was like where it started to be this whole, okay, yeah, the same idea, the same ideals. I think this was the collection where they had that, like, all those like meme things, like the 7-layer Parker and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That was where that idea, because obviously the show we just saw has this same idea of like, you know, clothes hanging on your neck, like a jacket, but as a necklace sort of idea, 7 layers, but apart, yeah, like this sort of stuff.
Oh my God.
Let's like run through this quickly, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I love Demna, and like I said, his haute couture is also really great. But I just like, I don't know how anyone can genuinely look at this collection. People genuinely were trying to tell me that I don't understand that it's a commentary on LA culture. Like I didn't just say that in my review. Like it isn't obvious. Like there isn't a Hollywood sign back there. But no one can literally say that this collection is like revolutionary or like pushing fashion forward in any way. This is quite literally product.
I think
this is quite literally.
If your frame of reference is small, then you won't know that what else to look for to know that this is not it. So, but I think a lot of his fans come at it with not a small knowledge about Balenciaga or the brand the way it was before, during, and,
And it's like, because he always does this thing where even when he does like the ultra commercial collections, the last few looks will be like these really interesting, well-crafted like dresses and stuff. And it's quite, I don't know why he does it that way. It's like, just so you know, it's not all commercial. Here's a dress. But I genuinely, till the day I die, I will never get over the fact that we literally saw spandex and like Lululemon, a Lululemon collection in form of Balenciaga. Like that is insane. There is no craft. Like,
in a
talk about craft. There
God.
is absolutely no, like, just look at this. It's literally even the same even the lining is the same as a Lululemon piece. It's the same fabric. If we're going to talk about craft, there is absolutely categorically no craft that goes into making that. So when Demna, once again, and this is, I think, why I have an issue with when he does the interviews, when he says to Kathy Horan that he feels like there's the death of, you know, art in fashion, and it's almost like the death of, you know, designers that really care to make fashion and push fashion forward and innovate. But then you simultaneously put this on the, and that's why it's just hard to really.
He's
How
adding
do you
to the
contextualize?
fire.
Yeah. How do you contextualize the critiques he's making when sometimes he backtracks on that exact same critique because he feels at odds doing what he's doing?
If I were him, I wouldn't say anything. Just talk about the clothes.
Same.
You don't have to have a concept for everything, because then everybody can just go back and just see that you're bullshitting.
Hey, you just don't get it, bro. It's too deep. Too deep for you, bro.
Today.
Your IQ is too low to understand Demna Gvasalia's world, bro. Your IQ is lacking. But yeah, it's insane. It's honestly insane. But like, it's product standpoint, it's always going to sell, because I think
It's gonna sell.
product, it's just good product. Like, even when I go on Instagram, it's just like the perfect like group of product. It's just like look at it. It's just like perfect. Is this the 3 hoodie dress? Yeah, this is the 3 hoodie dress. Yeah, this is the motocross glove. Oh, they actually collaborated with Alpine Stars. That's interesting. Because I'm getting into like riding motorbikes now. So it's like, I'm gonna be that purist. Like, you don't make motorcycle bags unless you ride. Like gatekeeping, like motorcycling.
Yeah, nah.
But it's just product. It's literally just
Those cleat shoes are so ugly, and I know people are still gonna wear them.
I can't lie, I love them. I think it's just weird, the steroid boot.
They're
It's just
crazy. What?
I love these though. They're the kind of things that like I'll take a free kick in.
Yeah.
And score like crazy goals. To be fair, I do like weird stuff because it's innovative. So the footwear, I actually don't have anything to like bad to say about the footwear, even though some of it is ultra wacky.
It's new. Yeah,
I like it. They're trying new things. They're seeing what works. I kind of like that. That's very opposite to like the clothing. And I think it's very hard because footwear is so complicated and difficult to design anyway. So to constantly every single season come up with new footwear designs is very impressive. Once again, I don't know exactly who the footwear designer is. Like, let me Google it. Who designed the Balenciaga Triple S? Okay, so David Tonier Bessiel, man who's created shoes for the likes of Maison Margiela, Givenchy, who frequently works with Balenciaga. So he made a Triple S. So maybe he like does all the designs for the brand. But shout out to him because once again, I think people always think it's Demna that designs all these things, and it's like he might help, steer kind of where it goes, but there's like a creative mind who's like making all this footwear and like all the accessories too. But yeah, it's just product after product. It's like I feel like it's like a thrift store, which is kind of cool in a way.
Spicy chili. What the
hell? It's a bag. Remember, Demna said he doesn't do anything that's gimmicky. Remember? Nothing he does is a gimmick.
That's what he said.
That's what he said. Yikes. So many products, so many SKUs. So many SKUs. I love this mall. Passport wallet. And it's cool. Like, it's actually really fun. I know, because Demna is actually a hilarious guy. I'll give him the credit. Like, even the interview with Kathy Horan, I was laughing at points because he's actually quite a funny guy, like genuinely. And I think he tries to bring that sense of humor to Balenciaga, and I think it does actually work sometimes. Kind of like this whole Balenciaga passport is like, yeah, it's like, because everything he does is just all a commentary on like contemporary living, right? So that's why you'd have a bag that's a passport, or like a Cheeto bag that's a bag. It makes sense, but that's also a gimmick. You have to also say that, yes, it's a gimmick. It's gimmicky. It's funny. It's fun, but it's also gimmicky. I wonder how many actual motorcyclists wear that, because it actually looks like it's functional. Like it's got the ankle protection. It doesn't have shin protection though, which, depending on what kind of motorcycling you do, you'd need some shin. Okay, this looks more substantial. It's even got the right fabric. Like it looks abrasion proof. Interesting. Like product wise, I think they make cool stuff. I just think cohesively, as you know, a designer that creates collections and stuff, it just isn't fantastic. But yeah, those are basically my thoughts on Balenciaga. If anyone has any questions before I dip to my bed, I'll be very open to answering any last questions. Micah said it's my bedtime. Yeah, it's almost 2 a.m.
Damn.
Literally almost 2 a.m.
It's 9:45 here.
I know. Things I do for Americans, eh?
Thank you.
Because my problem is if I live stream on my evening like 6, 7, it's going to be like 2, 1 in like the US, and people will be at work and stuff. So I have to actually stream late. People I watch, like UK people I watch, stream even later. Like one of the guys I watch, AZ, he's like a UK guy that streams. He streams at like 3 a.m. Like he starts streams at like 3 a.m. I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but I understand.
Damn. But no, how did you feel about the? Are you going to do another series for Paris?
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
What other shows are you going to cover?
Oh, let me actually get my phone because I have just because I like to do like 3 brands per stream, just so you can like really delve into each brand. I feel like if it's more, I'll end up like rushing through them and then not really talking about it. Yeah. Let's see. Paris Fashion Week. Okay, so on my list I have Louis Vuitton, obviously, because that Nicolas Gasquier, like 10 years. Antamina Mista, kind of interesting. Vivienne Westwood was kind of interesting because just like everyone was talking about it. Chloe also.
They were talking about Sam Smith.
Holding a stick, looking like a human witch. You've got Chloe, of course, because of the debut collection. Schiaparelli was interesting because it was the most commercial collection I've ever seen from Schiaparelli. It was the most like pared back collection ever. It's almost like Schiaparelli's version of Quiet Luxury. So that I thought would be interesting to talk about. Miu Miu, I want to talk about Miu Miu. Sakai, because I like went to the show and I really loved it. I thought it was really good. And I also wanted to talk about Junya Watanabe. So I have those written down. I have some that I've parked. So Huda Cover is like one I've parked. I've parked like Stella McCartney. Because Stella McCartney, I think, was actually stronger than a Stella McCartney show I've seen in a very long time.
Oh, damn.
Who else do I have parked? Because the parked brands are based on if like I have more time before the next season. Mugler is there. A lot of people like the Mugler show. That was like big. Let's see what else is on my list. I put Casablanca also because I went to the show. So yeah. The fashion YouTube has been taken over with hauls and commentary essays. I kind of feel like we're in the era of like, yeah, video essays. So everyone's like making video essays about different things. Can you briefly talk about price point versus fabric? I view a beautiful Dior cream dress jacket made of polyester over 5K. So it really, really depends. I think, first of all, every fabric has a grade. So there's bad quality cotton, there's good quality cotton. And a big misconception is a lot of people think that good quality cotton is based on like the ounce or like how thick it is, which actually isn't true. It's about the way fabrics are like woven. That's what determines the quality. So just because something is thicker and heavier doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It just means it's thicker and heavier, which means it's more conducive to wearing in, let's say, cold weather. So like a good reason why, let's say, Japanese denim is so good is because they use these like old weaving machines where they weave the yarn so tightly that the quality of the denim is like exceptional. And that's what they do with other fabrics too, which is why like Japan is like amazing quality wise, right? So same thing with, I'm just saying all of that to say that even with polyester, for example, Issey Miyake developed a certain type of polyester that he like presses to make pleats. And that is actually a really high quality polyester. Like those pieces, they don't run color. They don't share microplastics. They're easily foldable. They also last an extremely long time. They can be washed over and over and over again. The shape doesn't change. But then if you use like a low quality polyester, then it could. So it depends. There's no like one size fits all. If I see the jacket, then I could tell you, because what if Dior developed that specific polyester? Then it might, obviously it doesn't warrant 5K because luxury is luxury. It's never worth the price. But just because I think there is this misconception that, oh, it's polyester, it shouldn't be expensive, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think it depends on what type of polyester. Have they developed a new fabric in a different way? Because like, for example, un plissé is literally polyester, but it's like not the kind of polyester that we associate with polyester. So I think it depends. Yeah, exactly. All fabrics have negatives. They also have positives. Like every fabric has like a pros and cons. Like polyester is like, for example, stretchy. So it's like comfortable to wear in certain instances, especially if you make the right polyester. If you make bad polyester, it itches your skin. It's the sexy polyester. You went to shows and saw clients. How was it to see clients at shows? Oh yeah, so brief kind of story, I guess. So this season I went to Paris Fashion Week with Threads. So with like Meta, which was kind of fun. Because I was like posting on Threads and like learning how to use the platform on the fly and stuff, which was kind of cool. So that's kind of why I was there, and they kind of helped facilitate like me getting into the Reese's and the shows and stuff. So that's how I got into like Louis Vuitton, and like the bigger shows was through them, like Givenchy and stuff. So yeah, that was kind of cool. It was like a cool experience. I mean, I go to Fashion Week all the time. I just have to have a reason to. So some seasons, like in the past, I've written for Vogue Runway, so that's why I was there. This season it was like with Threads. If I don't have a reason to go, I won't go, because like I don't have money to just like pay for a hotel to just be staying in Paris aimlessly, just to like do up lifestyle. That's like a waste of my time and money. But it's fun. It's fun when I do get to go there.
This was probably like your biggest Paris Fashion Week as far as like the level of shows you got to attend, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
what's up.
Definitely like the biggest one. Oh my God. So funny story about Bernard Arnault, right? So I actually stood right beside Bernard Arnault in Paris. So I they had the showroom for the LVMH prize. So it was just a showroom for all the semi-finalists. And all the like designers were there, and like everyone went to see the collections essentially. And then Bernard Arnault was like literally going around talking to each designer. So at the time, I was with Hanan, and we were talking to the guys at like Who Decides War. Sorry, yeah, Who Decides War. And then Bernard Arnault just came, and then we were just like, okay, we're just gonna leave now because Bernard is here, and obviously he's the important person. So, but it's so weird because like he's so soft spoken. I didn't expect him to be that soft spoken in person, and then I didn't even want to get anywhere close to him because he had these massive like bodyguards, and they look like if you went like 5 centimeters close to Bernard, they would fold you into like
Damn.
into a sandwich. It literally, they were huge. I was like, oh my god, yeah, it's time for me to take my leave. It's giving US foreign policy. Who deserves war? Yeah, that was like a tongue twister. Who decides war? Yeah. I bet he smelled like the souls of interns. Oh my god.
Damn.
Damn. Oh, I was fascinated to learn that viscose is breathable and can be used as a silk substitute. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, even, for example, viscose is one of those fabrics that like people say, oh, viscose, it shouldn't be expensive. It depends, once again, because I know that Phoebe Fido, for example, in a lot of her recent stuff, she's using viscose. But I think because she wants it to have that relative like ease of like it being breathable, but still being, because a lot of her stuff is like heavy tailored coats. So how she makes it conducive for like warmer weather is by using things like viscose. So once again, it depends. Like the whole fabric thing is really complicated. I study chemical engineering, so for me, like I literally studied material science. So I have an understanding of fabrics that most people won't. So for me, it's just let me go and feel the fabric and actually see what exactly it is. But yeah, it's complicated is my like answer to all of that.
I'm from Florida, so I love viscose. Like I need wardrobe. So any designer that has viscose related items, I usually gravitate toward.
Yeah. Because it needs to be breathable. It's like, it's even because people always assume it's like they'll like boast and be like, my cotton is like 200 GSM. And I was like, you do know that's just the weight. It doesn't mean they're like, it's so thick, it's so high quality. It's like, not necessarily. If it was woven like shit, it might be heavy because it's more fabric, but you're going to have a hole in it not too long from now. I just want to chill and drink from coconuts.
Hello?
I think also in context of me like being so close to Bernard Arnault, it's funny because we kind of locked eyes and I was like, gave him that like cordial smile, and then he smiled back at me, and in the back of my head I was just thinking, oh my god, if only he knew what I say about him on my channel. He would have kicked me out of the event because it's an LVMH event, so he was well within his rights to be like, you out.
He's probably watching right now. He's watching right now. That's funny.
Who allowed this man into this event? No, I always make jokes at Bernard's expense because it's just funny. I like making fun of people also that people think are untouchable because they're not, like Anna Wintour. Right. I think people actually genuinely believe that like Anna Wintour, if they speak bad on Anna Wintour, that she's going to like cancel their careers. It's like Anna Wintour doesn't have that power. She doesn't control YouTube. She doesn't control social media. Like gone are the days where Vogue has a monopoly on like who can talk about fashion.
Right.
So yeah, it's just people are very scared. So that's why I find it really funny. The richest man in the world smiled at you, crazy. Oh my god, yeah, that was just crazy story. It's just weird. It's just actually so weird that like, because I didn't even know when he entered. I was literally just talking to the designers, and then I just looked to my left because there was like loads of noise. And I looked to my left, and I just saw 3 huge guys, and then Bernard Arnault in like the middle. like, what's going on? It's like, oh yeah, this is the LVMH prize, like showroom. So of course he's here.
I think if I were to see Bernard Arnault without security out somewhere, I don't even think I'd realize it was him because he just looks so. I mean,
he's kind of Yeah, he's low key though, so it's not like his security don't stand right beside him; they just stand at points. So it actually kind of looks, depending on what angle you look at, it looks like he's just there alone until you go close to him, and then all of a sudden these like
They stop.
massive guys appear from nowhere. I think they actually wanted to give him the space so the designers don't feel like, you know, their space is being invaded by these like huge security guards. Yeah, his suits are amazing, to be fair. His impeccable suits. His suit was looking sharp. I mean, when you're that rich, I mean, you can literally go to the best tailor. I mean, geez, he owns Dior factories and stuff. So, of course, his suits look...
He owns a tailor. I'm sure he owns somebody that stays with him all the time to tailor his suits.
He can literally just call one of his designers, please, can you make me a suit? Like... Exactly that. Like, the Dior stuff is like... He could just literally go to the atelier and just give him the measurements and be like, yeah, make me a custom piece.
That's probably why Maria Grassi's been there so long. She's the one that's actually tailoring the suits.
Yeah.
Personally.
Wait, when you say he wears Dior, it can't be off the rack. There's no way he wears Dior off the rack. That's just not possible. Because they don't even make suits in the style that he wears classic traditional suits. Like Kim Jones is not making stuff that looks like that. It must be custom. Maybe it's like similar, but it's definitely all custom because it's not even stuff that's on the runway, really. I'll pull up some pics. Let's see. Bernard Arnault style. Quiet luxury. Let's see what he wears. He just wears the same as like he likes a navy suit, doesn't he? When I saw him, he was wearing a navy suit. Yeah, it's like this sort of stuff, right? Kind of like classic, just navy suit. Even his like kids have adopted the same thing.
Not
just
Bernie Arnold.
Navy. Yeah, what he wears is ultra classic. So it's not like any of this stuff is ever on a runway. So it's like, even if it is Dior, it's all custom, which is not hard to make. How hard is it to just go to the atelier of like literally skilled artisans and be like, oh, just make me a basic ass like suit? These people are used to making the most outlandish things, like making patterns that don't even make sense. And then he's like, oh, just make me like a suit.
I'm sure every LVMH house that makes suiting has his measurements.
Oh, yeah, of course. Like, today I want the Givenchy suit. Make it in navy, the usual. Merci. Merci. All right. His son is the spitting image of him. Literally. Literally. It's almost scary. I need Bernard Arnault to do a what's in my closet. Yeah, that's never going to happen.
Never.
That's just not.
He doesn't have a closet. That's not a closet.
His closet is navy suits. I'm very sure he has like 50 on some like Steve Jobs shit. Oh my god. The mad skeletons.
Right, a car closet. He has a car closet for sure.
Imagine if Bernard Arnault switches up one year and does hella Vogue and complex interviews. That would be insane. That would actually be insane. But I don't think Bernard can do interviews because, well, it depends on which journalist, because most journalists will ask him questions that are too, he wouldn't want to answer, and then it just won't become an interview. He'll be like, no comment. His closet is his second guest house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he did do the Oxford Union. That's true. He did. I watched that. I remember watching that. He did do that. But then that's different. That's not that's Oxford Union. Everyone does at Oxford Union. It's like prestigious. Like you go and speak at Oxford. It's a bit, that's more up his alley. It's like very like upper class, you know. It's very Oxford University, where all the politicians go. All his friends now, they all probably went to Oxford too, if he has any friends from the UK that are in politics. Okay, but anyway, it's kind of fun doing this. I think I'm gonna take my leave. Thank you very much, Son of a Guns, for making your famous return.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. But yeah, this is really fun, and also the first time I've live streamed on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So we'll see if anyone from Twitch was actually watching. But yeah, thank you guys very much, and I'll see you guys probably in the next stream or the next video, whenever that happens. Who knows?
Take care.
Peace.